right. Welcome on in. NorCal Sports Network. Thursday night football was an awesome game, and so was Game 3 of the National League wildcard round between the Mets and the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to talk about it here. Welcome on in to NorCal Sports Network. And we want to start off our show and announce a couple of new sponsors that are sponsoring NorCal Sports Network. We'd like to give a shout out to NorCal Sports Network is being sponsored now by Chapman Law Group. Chapman Law Group is a full-service civil litigation practice based out of Marin County. They represent clients throughout California in federal and state courts in matters of real estate, trust litigation, business and environmental law, bankruptcy, personal injury, and general litigation. So if you need help, call Chapman Law Group. Isn't that interesting, Bora? Chapman
Law Group.
The Giants have Chapman, Matt Chapman, and we have Chapman Law Group.
Fits right in.
The Giants have the second person in the National League in WAR. We got Chapman Law Group representing you throughout the state of California. Give them a call, 415-613-9483. They will help you in any of those matters we discussed. So if you need help, give them a call. Doesn't hurt to give them a call at first and find out if they can help you. So Chapman Law Group, we thank you for being a proud sponsor of NorCal Sports Network. And we would also like to give a shout out to our other sponsor, which is Yogurtshack. The Yogurtshack in Danville, their main store, and Lafayette. And I can tell you this, guys, if you have never been to Yogurtshack, you're missing out. Yogurtshack, you can self-serve your yogurt, get your yogurt, put all the toppings you want on. You do pay by the ounce. Bring your kids. They will feel empowered because they will get to pick out what they want on their own and put their own scoops of all those goodies, M&Ms with peanut Reese's Pieces,
Gummy bears.
Gummy bears. There's literally, I don't know how many toppings there are, but I've been in there many times. There's probably 50 toppings or more. I don't know. And there's always several flavors of the day, and they have lactose-free yogurt as well. They've got probably 6-7 different flavors to choose from. And you know what? You grab a cup, you fill up your yogurt, then you go over to the counter, put your goodies, and put it on the scale, and away you go. And Yogurtshack, 2 places, downtown Danville, at 290 Harts Avenue, right there in Danville, and Lafayette, 3518 Mount Diablo Boulevard in Lafayette, home where the new president of baseball ops lives, Buster Posey. And I can tell you this, guys, without naming names, there's some big-time Bay Area pro athletes that visit the Yogurtshack. And guess what Yogurtshack is going to do for us as sponsors? You guys join as members of the show. You become a member of NorCal Sports Network. We're going to send you $10 out in coupons so you can go into Yogurtshack on your first visit. You will get, probably 1 or 2 free yogurts there. Join, become a member. And just for becoming a member, Yogurtshack is giving us some coupons to donate to you so you can go in and take your family, try it out. There it is. All right, everybody. Let's get going here as we have a busy night in sports with 2 big games, Bora. Let's get into baseball first because that ended first. What a game in the a classic.
A complete classic. I didn't watch the whole game. I had to go work out. I had school as well. But I mean, through 7, I think it was a shutout. Then the Brewers hit back-to-back home runs. Then top of the 9th, I watched that. Pete Alonso, I mean, he'd had a rough game. I think he was 0 for 3 before that, and he had dropped a pop-up foul ball pop up. So that was a lot of redemption for him. Just a great win, a gritty, great win for the Mets. And they're going on to Philadelphia. That's going to be a great series. That environment is going to be electric.
Oh, we are going to see so much craziness in these two games, series. I looked it up on the map just for kicks, just to see what the drive time was. From New York to Philly, 2 hours. From San Diego to LA, 2 hours. We got two barn buster divisional series with, pretty much hated rivals. And they're 2 hours apart. Pretty awesome. Dan, can my OnlyFans sponsor? That's right, TN. That's right. We got the. Don't crack me up too much, TN. It's cracking me up, man.
Did you see the Padres are limiting their ticket sales to only like Southern Orange County, San Diego, and a couple counties around San Diego? So I mean, and they're gonna do that. A lot of people do that, and their ballpark's still gonna be packed. I mean, the electricity and the environment in these two stadiums, or in all the stadiums, New York, Philadelphia,
it's going to be unbelievable.
LA, and San Diego, it's going to be unbelievable. And Giants fans, I know I'm going to miss it. Just as a Giants fan, we deserve the playoffs every year because it is an electric atmosphere.
4 powerhouses. Sorry, I'm eating a little snack here. I don't want to be too rude, but four powerhouses. And in the American League, it's kind of like, you got, what do you have? You got the Mets. I mean, the Yankees and the Royals, and then you got the Tigers and the Guardians or Indians or whatever you want to call them. Not real as exciting, but I'm sure the games will be great. So,
what's your prediction for the Indians Tigers game series?
Man, Scooble's probably going game 2.
Mm-hmm.
He pitched Tuesday? So Wednesday, Thursday, right? Yeah, he'll go game 2. The question is, then game 5, if it reaches a game 5, let's see, he'd pitch Sunday, and then they'd take Monday off. Then they'd have Tuesday, Wednesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they travel. So do they take Thursday off and play game 5 on a Friday? Let's just check the schedule, because if that's the case, I'm going to take Detroit.
I'm not taking Detroit. I'm going to take Cleveland.
If Scooble's pitching twice, I'm taking Detroit. Let me see.
You think you're going to take Detroit, really?
Only if Scooble's pitching twice.
Okay, all right.
Only if Scooble pitches twice. That guy's like so dominant. Let me pull up the schedule, the playoff schedule. MLB playoff bracket. Do we have? No, that doesn't give me anything. Let me look at the schedule. Okay, here's the schedule. You guys, here, I'll share it with everybody so we can just take a peek together.
After we look at this, guys, we're going to be talking about the thumbnail of the video and talking about Farhan versus ownership. So just wait on that a little bit.
Okay, so game 1 is Saturday. Well, what does this tell me? Okay, let me go to here. If this is game, I want to go over here and see if they're going to go to 7th. I want to go to October 12th. Is this game 5? Wait a minute.
That's the. What do you?
What am I hitting? I'm hitting I want to hit the 12th. Okay. Kansas City, Detroit at Cleveland.
Game 5
if necessary. I'm taking the Tigers in a 5-game upset with Scooble winning game 5.
Really?
Somehow. Yeah, all they got to do is win one other game. They got to win game 1 or 3. If they win game 2, I'm taking game 2 for Scooble. All right.
Okay.
To Detroit. So it's 1-1. I think Cleveland wins first game. if Detroit wins the first game, look out. Because you know what happens is some of these teams, they're riding on a high, they're playing, and then the other team's like sitting for almost a full week, 6 days, which I hate. I hate it. I don't think a team in baseball should sit any more than 3 or 4 days.
Do you know what the Phillies are doing? Have you?
Are they doing
They're doing a complete inter squad. They're having umpires come in and they're doing simulated crowd noise. So it's pretty much.
Yeah, that's what Atlanta did last year too.
How'd that work out for them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I think about this series. Cleveland's tough. Cleveland is their bullpen is the best bullpen in the league. Neither team has great offensive production as a whole. I mean, Cleveland has Jose Ramirez. They have Josh Naylor. They have Stephen Kwan. Their stars are definitely better. I mean, Detroit, I just don't think they're going to be able to put up any runs, any offense at all, because Cleveland's starting pitching isn't great, but Cleveland's starting pitching, it's a playoffs caliber starting rotation, and without any offensive production from the Tigers, I mean, who's the Tigers' offensive star?
Probably Riley Green.
Riley Green, okay. Who's their second? Who's their second guy?
Right here? Let's just discuss this real quick, and we'll get into this. This is very interesting to me because I was watching these playoffs, and this will lead right into what we're going to talk about with the Giants. Okay.
Okay.
Why I think the Giants, even with Buster, it's going to be a while, guys. It may not happen. What do you need? Let's look at LA. We're going to look at all 8 teams.
So are we talking still about the playoffs, or are we getting into the Giants and ownership?
We're going to talk 8 teams, and what I did is I wrote their stars down, and then I got the Giants.
All
okay. Right. LA, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, 3 Hall of Famers, undisputable. Then I've got Yamamoto's going to be a dominant pitcher if he stays healthy. And he looks to be healthy again. So I put Yamamoto in that category, and Will Smith. Okay. I'm not even going to count Max Muncy or
what about Teoscar Hernandez? I would count Teoscar Hernandez.
You could put Hernandez in as star. Now we'll go superstar and star, all-star. Okay.
All right.
Superstars, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman.
Yeah.
Stars, all-stars, Yamamoto, Smith, Teoscar.
Yeah.
We good with that? Okay, San Diego. I think Tatis is a superstar, even though he's been hurt.
Yeah,
he has and Machado.
Yeah,
and then you got Arias and Merrill, who are all stars,
and Profar.
Yeah. Okay, Philadelphia. Harper and Turner are superstars of the game. Trey Turner is still he really is. Okay, Zach Wheeler, he might be borderline superstar when it comes to
he's a superstar pitcher.
Yeah,
he is.
Okay, stars, Aaron Nola, Real Muto. You can even put in Kyle Schwarber in that category as a possible all-star type. Okay, Mets. They got Lindor and Alonso. Lindor is a superstar. Alonso's a borderline superstar. He's not there, but
I wouldn't say Alonso's. I would say Alonso's a star.
Okay, I agree.
And they also have Mark Vientos, who's hit 27 home runs.
Yeah, Mark Vientos. Yep,
he was really good.
Okay. Yankees. Now we go to the American League. Judge and Soto.
Yep.
Superstars, Hall of Famers. Cole. Why did I forget his first name?
Garrett.
Thank you. All of a sudden I'm going, Derek Cole? No, Garrett Cole. Okay. Kansas City. Bobby Witt Jr. is already
a superstar.
A superstar. The guy's amazing. And then Salvador Perez is probably an all-star. Okay. Cleveland. Jose Ramirez, superstar.
Yep.
Clase, an all-star pitcher.
Class A, I don't know if he's going to be in the Cy Young running, but he might be in top 10 in Cy Young votes this year.
Yeah.
He's close. He's probably going to be the reliever of the year.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable. He was on my fantasy team, by the way.
That whole bullpen is a star.
Yeah. Now Cleveland, I mean, not Cleveland. Detroit, they're the one team that doesn't have Riley Green was an all-star this year. Okay. So he's got star potential. He's about it. Riley Green. Okay. And what do they match up with? The San Francisco Giants. I got one name on there. Logan Webb.
Logan Webb. What is he? You'd say superstar or star?
No, just an all-star.
Okay.
He's just an all-star. And I don't even put Matt Chapman on. He didn't make the all-star team. He's hardly ever made an all-star team. He's a star on the Giants, but he's not a star recognized across the game. Like everybody goes, oh, Matt Chapman. Look, when you talk top third baseman in the game, you go Jose Ramirez.
Oh, you forgot Skubal with the Tigers.
That's right, Skubal. Thank you.
Superstar. That's a superstar.
Thank you, Con. Skubal. Okay, they have one. Skubal's better than Webb, by the way.
Skubal is probably better than everybody. He's probably the best pitcher.
He's dominant. In the league. He's dominant. I drafted him in one of my picks too, but I traded him. So what I'm getting at is, and this leads us into everybody's like, look, we're all excited about Farhan being gone, and as everything kind of settles down and we think about, Buster, I think we're looking at Buster like he's going to be this unbelievable savior to the team. He may just be able to pull it off. Yeah, Giovanni Chapman's primetime. Yeah. When's the last All-Star game he made, Giovanni? Not to be confused with Chapman Law Group. Okay.
The sponsor for the channel.
That's right. Look, I'm not against Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman's a solid. He's not solid. He's better than solid. He's a very good ball player. He's excellent at some things. He's unbelievable at third base.
If he was on the Dodgers this year or the Yankees, or I don't know what other team needs a third baseman, he might have been an all-star because he would have so much protection around that lineup.
He'd have 15, 20 more RBIs, I would hope.
I would hope, right. But getting into this conversation with Posey and Farhan and ownership, guys, if you haven't checked it out, check out yesterday's live stream with Dieter and Dan. A lot of controversy. Dieter brought it hard. He has his opinions and he's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinions at the end of the day. That's just what it is. Their opinions. No one knows what's going to happen. But this conversation is very interesting because the more I thought about it, Dan, you and I talked until like 2 a.m. last night, 3 a.m. last night about this. It's a little confusing because they fired Farhan and everybody agreed that Farhan deserved to be fired. He didn't do a great job. You can't argue that. What you can argue is, what you can question is the fact that ownership pivoted so quickly into hiring Buster Posey literally the same day. They fired Farhan in the same memo. They announced Posey as the president of baseball operations. It's a little weird just to think that they wouldn't go out and try to go out and see if there were any other GM prospects out there. They didn't interview anybody. They didn't take a look at anybody. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe they did, and they did that internally before Farhan was fired. We don't know. We're just speculating. But it was such a quick pivot that it raises some questions. It's like, why was Posey just given the job? And me personally, I think Posey's going to do a great job. I do. I think he's going to set a culture in the clubhouse. I think he's going to set a great culture around the team. And that personally, that's what I think he's there to do. I don't think, and I don't think anybody should think that he's there to do the day-to-day operations, because he doesn't know how to do the day-to-day operations. He doesn't have a scouting background. He doesn't have a GM background. He has a player background. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time to get up in the system. That's why Farhan, he started out as an analyst. He worked his way up. A lot of these guys start out at the bottom and they worked their way up and they keep on learning things and doing all these things. Posey could be great, but he could also just kind of eat it. I can see that. I can see the possibility where he doesn't hire a good GM. And that's what this whole thing is riding on. It really is.
It is. It rides on this,
riding on
who
he hires as a GM, because he's not going to be doing the day-to-day operations. That's a fact. He's not doing the day-to-day operations. He doesn't know how to. The GM of this club, whoever he hires as the GM, is going to be doing the day-to-day operations. They're going to be scattering the waiver wire. They're going to be looking at their prospects. They're going to be looking for trades. They're going to be looking at everything. Posey doesn't know how to scout. Posey doesn't know how to do all this. So it's going to be interesting. If he hires a complete clueless person at GM, if he hires, I don't even know, I don't know the names or anything. If he doesn't hire somebody at GM that is adequate for the job, this thing could go downhill fast, because that GM is going to be doing a lot of the work. Now, if he hires somebody at the GM position that knows what they're doing, and that's proven to know what they're doing, and they're a good scout, they make good trades, they sign good free agents, they replenish the farm system, then everything's probably going to work out. But if that doesn't happen, if Posey hires a GM who doesn't know what they're doing and just kind of just airmails it, this team could be a lot worse than when Farhan was here. And Dan, you and I were talking about it last night. You and Dieter talked about it last night. Farhan was hired to kind of just play that middling game. He was the 75 to 80 wins. The ceiling of the team when Farhan was the GM was 80 wins. The floor was 75 wins. It was a very high floor, low ceiling team. Right. And that's not what we want as fans for the San Francisco Giants. The Giants are a major team. They're a major network. They should be a powerhouse every year. They need to be spending money. They need to be in the playoffs every year. Exactly, Tien. The worst place you can be is in the middle. And that's one of the gripes that both Dan and I had. It's like, pick a lane. They didn't pick a lane ever. They never picked a lane. They were just playing that middling game. So with Posey, it's possible that they just go out, they go all in on free agency, and they make some trades, they replenish the farm system, and everything goes great. Everything works out, and they're this 90-win team for 5 years in a row. But it's also possible that the current GM, whoever Posey hires as the GM, just completely sucks, and he doesn't replenish the farm system. He doesn't draft well. He doesn't make great trades. He doesn't sign people in free agency, and it could be worse than what we've had it.
Well, let's look at it this way, guys. We all want Buster to succeed. We know if anybody can succeed without experience, it's a guy like Buster Posey, because he's loves the team. He loves to win. He's very competitive. But let's look at it practically, guys. I'm hearing people, oh, Posey's going to be great. He's going to be great. Okay. I liked what Dieter said last night. Why not Brandon Crawford? He was a leader, quiet, like Posey. Mm-hmm. Why not Matt Cain? Why not
Joe Mauer?
Joe Mauer used. Guys, this is not an easy job, and it's going to be very difficult. And
it's a 24/7 job.
Right. And he's going to have, let me put it this way. Let me put it another way. Everybody says, oh, Posey's going to be free agents. He's admitted before that he's had a pretty poor record of recruiting players to come play while he was a player. They could have played for him with him as a teammate, and he couldn't get him. It's not Buster's fault. Players don't want to come to this ballpark. Why do you want to come to play when you have 29 other choices? And that, guys, remember, this is a short career. You're talking 10 to 12, maybe, if you're a star, maybe you get 17, 18 years in the game. But most of them are lucky to get one big contract. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they want one more maybe after that, because maybe they end up having to take a shorter deal, like we've seen a lot of guys do. They don't get the big deal they want, and they got to prove themselves. They're not going to come prove themselves at San Francisco, period. They're coming to San Francisco on a 6 or 7 year deal if they're a big time player, or they ain't coming for the 1-2 year deals that are stars. That's why you're stuck with guys on the 1-2 year deals. You know, you got the Manias, the Confortos, the Hanigers, the Striplings. You get the middle of the road guys, okay? What stars come here while Buster was recruiting? Name me one.
I'll say Johnny Cueto was a star, and they signed him, but he was great for one season.
Pitcher's different.
Yeah, pitcher.
Pitcher is different. Pitchers come to San Francisco to start their careers. We saw it with Gosman. We saw it with Rodon. Look, it's a pitcher's park, okay? So this is not just a slam dunk because it's Buster Posey. He couldn't get Ohtani. He couldn't get Judge. He couldn't get other players. He couldn't get Harper. He tried. He was in on those. So what's the difference if Buster's doing the negotiations? He's not always talking face-to-face with the players. You generally have like one meeting with the player, and the rest is with the agent. Mm-hmm. You get one shot generally with the player. The rest you're sitting there working with agents. So I don't want to just pour cold water over the whole thing. I'm just bringing people reality again who think that this thing is going to be, Giants are just going to sail back to the way they were. Look, guys, Buster's going to set a culture, okay? And the culture is he's going to look for certain types of players, and he's going to have certain types of leaders, but you got to be able to know who the players are. Brian Sabean knew who to get, okay? Brian Sabean built this team. Brian Sabean was a scout, okay? He was a scout in the game. And you got to have scouts all over the place. You got to know who those scouts are. So this is not just like, oh, Buster Posey's here. You know, hey, look, we're going to get into this right now about this whole thing with Farhan, because
before we do that, we got a super chat. Tangi, thank you for the $5. The great list of ex-athletes that become good executives is short. That's a good point.
There's a reason it's short. It's short. It's not an easy job. Look, I think about what Dieter said last night. Farhan Zaidi's very, very smart. And I was thinking about this, and I ripped Farhan, and he needed to go, and I'm glad he's gone. Okay. I'm not apologizing for Farhan Zaidi, but he did work around the edges and come up with some decent players to make this a 500 team. That was his ceiling for the most part. The 107 win team, that was a lot of guys.
We all know who that was. That was Buster Posey. That was Brandon Crawford, and that was Brandon Belt. Brandon Crawford had a career year. Brandon Belt hit 29 home runs, I think. And the platoon worked. Everything worked. Darren Ruff was great in his role. Lamont Wade was great in his role. Tyro Estrada came in late, and he was great. I mean, a lot of things, everything went right with that season. Everything went right. And it wasn't if you really self analyzed and looked at the team, you knew that wasn't going to keep on happening. That was an outlier. That was an outlier. And that, you've said it before, Dan, I'm going to say it now. The 107 year, that was the worst thing to happen to this franchise, because it set them back.
It set him back. I think, look, guys, I talked to some different people. I talked to several people out there, and I make calls, and I have some contacts in baseball, not a ton, but enough that I have my 7 to 10 contacts that I get to talk with. And the word around the Giants is that Farhan, after the 22 season, I think it was, looked to want to rebuild and tear the thing down because he knew that this thing was just going to spiral into a 5. You can't just keep rinsing and repeating with free agents every year and not being able to land
It's
the
not
top.
sustainable.
It's
It's
not,
just
and
not
the farm.
sustainable.
So he wanted to tear it down, but Giants ownership, and that's why we're getting into this. Who's at fault here? Farhan was not allowed to tear it down. Ownership said, no, we don't do that. We want to, they wanted Farhan to keep trying to bring in fresh blood that would keep them competitive. They don't want a 65-70 win team, the Giants.
No,
okay,
it looks really bad.
So the mistake that Farhan made was that he was not strong enough as a personality to basically say, stick it up your know what, I'm going to do it my way or the highway.
I'm running this team. You hired me to run this team. I'm going to do what I want to do.
And his hands were pretty much handcuffed. And it's starting to make a little sense, possibly. We don't have all the stories out yet, but with Luciano not getting playing time, it's possible that, I'm not saying there was some kind of conspiracy to get Farhan out of here to make him lose, but to make Farhan look bad. But it's possible Melvin didn't play Luciano because I don't know. We don't know the full facts.
We're just talking about this. We're kind of just shooting. We're guessing. We're taking guess here. We don't know if this hasn't been put out in an article. We're just talking ball. Gio. So all this time you bashed Farhan, Dan, and it wasn't even him. It's ownership. It's both. It's everybody.
Who's saying this?
That was Giovanni.
Oh, Giovanni. Look, I told you, if you listen, Giovanni, Farhan needed to go, and I'm happy he's gone. What do you want me to say? I said he was not the right man for the job, but it was a bad fit. You got an ownership group that doesn't care. Okay? I know that for a fact. I know that Greg Johnson doesn't watch the games hardly. He's not involved. They don't listen until certain media speaks out.
Dan, you're wearing a Mets hat right now. Did you see Steve Cohen on the field? They had a group picture, and he was on the field. He was in the middle. Yeah. That's an owner who cares. He owns 93%, 90 it's in the 90s percentage-wise. How he owns 90% of the Mets. He's the guy that gets it done. And you know what? He loves the Mets. He's a lifelong Mets fan, and he'll die for that team. You know what? He spends money. He cares about the Mets.
Exactly. So what I am saying is that I know for a fact that ownership did not really do any. Look, ownership has no clue what they're doing. Okay? Take my word for this.
They hired Farhan.
Yeah, they hired Farhan. Hold on here. Okay. Hold on. Let me address something real quick. Well, let me go ahead and finish up here. I got it. I'm getting text here, and I got it.
All right. Ownership is the problem. Also, Farhan was also a problem. We all know Farhan wasn't a great GM. He wasn't a great president of baseball operations. We've heard the articles. If you guys have seen the articles, Pavlovich came out with one. I think SF Gate came out with a couple. The culture in the clubhouse and in the front office was just bad. Farhan didn't know how to run a team. He was very analytical. He was a cold person, and the vibe in the whole Giant system was very cold. So Farhan needed to go, and we've been talking about Farhan for 2 years now. We had been banging on the door for him to be fired, and now he's gone. It's not like Farhan isn't a problem. We're not saying Farhan wasn't a problem, and it's just ownership. It's a combination of both. Farhan was fired, and now Posey's in that position. All we can do is wait. All we can do is see what Posey does as the president. It's all going to be about who Posey hires as the GM. If he hires a great GM, I know they're talking about Billy Owens. Billy Owens' name has come up. Kim Ng's name has come out. Jeremy Shelley's name has come out. Brian Sabian's name has come out. We can only speculate who they're going to hire, but whoever they hire, they better get it right, because these past 6 years have been a disaster. And if it continues any longer, it's going to get worse. And ownership does not want to see that. The way I see it is Posey came back. Posey moved to Georgia, and then he came back, I think in the 2022 or 2023 season. He came back to the Bay Area for some reason. Now, his reasoning for that was, oh, we love the Bay Area. We love our friends here. I love the Giants. I wanted to be close to the Giants. And that could very well be it. But it could also be that he wanted to be closer to the team. And he was eventually thinking about getting into this president of baseball operations role. If what's Dan's saying, and he's saying he knows it for a fact that the Giants ownership does not care and that they don't watch the games, then I think that Posey, while he was in the ownership group and in those board meetings, saw that. And we know Posey cares. We know who Posey is. We know who Posey is. We know Posey cares about this team. Posey's a competitor. Posey wants to win. But if Posey was in the ownership group and he saw what was happening, that this ownership group did not care and that they were just hiring Farhan just to be able to make money and cash checks, I could see him seeing that.
Froze, Bora.
Am I frozen?
We'll get back. We're back. Bora.
Am I back?
you were froze like this. You were
Okay.
looked like you were frozen, sound asleep. Okay.
Am I back now?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay.
You're back.
To me, it's just what was it? Do you remember what I was talking about? I lost my train of thought.
About Buster and ownership not caring, and
yeah, if I could definitely see the possibility that Posey saw what was happening and he didn't like what he was seeing, and he just kind of took over the meetings, and he was like, you know what, I want to do this, Greg. I want to do this. Let me. And we've heard it in the interviews and press conferences. Posey wanted the ball. Posey wanted the ball. He wanted to be the guy in charge. He wanted the accountability, and props to him. So yeah. Posey wanted it, and he got it. And now to me, if ownership group is really the big problem, ownership group got what they want, because you know what? Now the pressure isn't on them. It's on Posey, and Posey's in front of it all. Posey's the head of the franchise now. He's the cornerstone guy. When you think of the SF Giants right now, you're thinking of Buster Posey.
Yep.
And that's what ownership wants. The ownership doesn't want any pressure on them. They just want to sit back and relax.
All right. Robert donating $5. Thank you, Robert. Says, great show as always, boys. Farhan was an idiot and Greg Johnson was a problem as well. I will support the show as always. Thank you, Robert. Guys, I just want to point out too, we have a lot of stuff going on in the chat. It's a busy chat. Sometimes it's hundreds people making comments. Look, I've got different mods right now. I have a producer that runs the show, and we want to make sure that as a moderator, I don't have time to meet with all of you guys individually, but look, I don't care if you guys rip on me or Bora, just keep it, keep it to that. If you don't like our comments, fine, but don't get personal. Okay. And don't get personal with other people in the chat. I have some mods that want to go after and go in there and time people out. I don't want to censor anybody. Okay. I hate censorship. Okay. I'm not a censorship person, but if somebody starts calling people, names, we're not going to put up with it. Okay. So look, enjoy the show. Call us, clowns if you want. Just don't call people, certain types of
derogatory things.
Don't get derogatory. Don't get demeaning. Okay. To me, a clown is not that demeaning. It's
That's
just,
fine.
come on. You're just okay. And I know that everybody likes to get their opinion out there, and I've got haters. You know what? That's okay. God loves me. That's all I care about. Okay.
Everybody's gonna have haters. Everybody has haters.
And my wife loves me, and
I love you too, Dan.
Thank you, Bor. I love you too, man. Oh, let's everybody sing Kumbaya here on the NorCal Sports Network. Okay, look, guys, it's just, we're talking sports, we're talking opinions. Okay, it's like we're all Giants fans. We're all going to go about it in a different way. I'm here to give you my take. I got hated all year long for saying on Twitter. You wouldn't believe the hate I get on Twitter for saying the Giants are terrible. Farhan was awful. The owners were awful. They're a fourth place team. I said it last year, they're a fourth place team. This year, I came right out beginning. You heard our predictions. We didn't predict the Giants to make the playoffs. Most of the Bay Area beat writers did, because they thought the year Farhan had, especially when they signed Soler and Snell, that pushed everybody over the top, and they were all like, oh, this team's going to compete. You know what? I said at the same time, it's about a 500 team. Okay. I didn't know if they're going to be a couple games over or a few games under, but that's what I thought. I've been watching baseball, guys, for 56 years. Okay. And I played it, and I was taught very young and coached up. I wasn't the most talented guy on the baseball field, but I had excellent coaching. I would have been, to give you the type of player I would have been. I would have been not a big, strong hitter, but I would have been a good defensive player that would have been a valuable piece defend on a good team that, I would get on base, but I wasn't a big type of star hitter. But I was coached up, and I learned to play the game. Mm-hmm. And that's why I can follow it with a coach's eye. I'm more of a coach, and anybody that could make it to the big leagues, guys, was a great baseball player. Okay. At some level, but they went to a level too high where they're not major league talent. Okay. Donovan Walton, there you go. Probably a star in high school and college, and, was able to climb the ladder, but he's not a big leaguer. He's a fill-in big leaguer for, when you need a guy up for a week or two because somebody's on the IL. He doesn't belong on your roster regularly.
Mm-hmm. Johnny, you ask a question. So what better person to be president of baseball operations? Someone that cares and wants to win. That's why Posey's a great choice. It's a great choice. Posey's going to set the culture, and he cares and wants to win, but that's not all the job is. You have to win. You have to have a great farm system. You have to make trades. You have to sign free agency. You have to do so much more than just set a culture and want to win. I bet Farhan cared, and I bet Farhan wanted to win. That was his ultimate goal, but he couldn't get it done. So it's not just about caring and wanting to win. You have to actually do it. And I hope Posey does it. I think he can do it. He has the capability to do it. But again, I'm just going to say it again. It all comes down to who he hires as the GM, because that GM is going to be running the day-to-day operations.
Let me put in another area with Farhan. And I will blame Farhan for not having a good minor league system. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But is it possible? We talk about Buster taking over, and he doesn't know there's 5,000 players in the game. He's going to have to rely on somebody, like Dieter said. Somebody's going to say, his general manager is going to say, know all these 5,000 and say, we want him. And Buster's going to have to, like, okay, what's he going to, why? Why do we want him? Does he know those players? Mm-hmm. He's going to have to know about these players. Otherwise, he really is just a figurehead. Okay. So you guys are getting excited about all this stuff with Buster. Who's really going to be running the team? Because Buster is not going to run the day-to-day operations. And that is the key person in the organization. Okay. That is the key person. Let me just put it this way with Farhan. Is it possible that he had to go out and get certain guys on waivers and find different guys because nobody wanted the Giants prospects in a trade?
That's a great possibility.
Think about that, guys. They're ranked 30th by Bleacher Report. They had one guy with a tier 1. I'm going to pull that up again, and we're going to look what tier 1 means, look what tier 2 means, and look what tier 3 means. Because I want you guys to know this. Because why did Farhan never make any trades? There's nothing to trade.
Exactly. And I watched last night's show. I was in and out, but the one point that I'll argue against Dieter, the one point that I disagree that Dieter made, was that Buster Posey doesn't have a plan and ownership doesn't have a plan. If Buster Posey was hired, he has a plan. I guarantee it. If he doesn't have a plan and if ownership doesn't have a plan, then this organization is a disaster and it's going to get much worse. But he has a plan. He has a plan. He might not come out and say it, but he has a plan. He knows what he knows what he's doing for the most part right now regarding plan wise. He has a plan and they're going to stick to that plan. He doesn't not have a plan. I don't think so, at least.
Yeah. And Robert Boyd says, "Hey Dan, who do you think Posey will sign as a GM?" I think it's going to be one of two people. I think it's going to be Billy Owens. No, I'll say one of three people. There's 3 people that have a shot at this, I believe. I think his first choice, if he could pull it off and if he's interested, would be Brian Sabian. I think he mentioned
that would be a slam dunk hire. That would be
the guy that would get me very excited.
Yes,
because he knows the game and he can put together an organization. The second thing would be there's Jeremy Shelley, who's the assistant GM, who knows all those 5,000 players of the game. And the other one is Billy Owens. If it's Jeremy Shelley, welcome to the Colorado Rockies.
Yep.
You will be below the Rockies in 2 years if it's Jeremy Shelley, okay? Because that is just going to be a disastrous move, okay?
Look, that's a low risk move.
Yeah.
And
that may be it. I don't think that's their first choice. I think it could be their only choice by default, because if Brian Sabian says no, and then
Billy Owens?
Yeah, Billy Owens says, I'm going to stick with the A's. He's got some scouting background. It's going to be, I think they want somebody with a scouting background. Could be somebody on the Tampa Bay that
or the Braves or the Braves.
Yeah. Look, I think Dieter's point, Mitchell and Ness says Dieter made no sense acting like Buster was working by himself. Let's judge Buster on a team he builds around him. Look, guys, all his Dieter's going off of is what he's got in front of him. He's going off what Buster said. Buster hasn't contacted anybody yet. Okay. Now, I tend to think maybe he has. I don't know why you would take a job of this magnitude without calling the guy who signed you, that you know that you can't. He said, Buster said he didn't call Brian because out of respect for Farhan, they didn't want anything to get out. What? You don't trust you can make a phone call to Brian and say, hey, as buddies, as friends,
you think you're wiretapped?
Yeah. Look, I'm calling, if I'm taking a job that is way over my head, that I've never done before, that I've not been trained to do, I'm going to call a person that's done it and say, what is involved with me taking this job? What am I getting myself into? Okay. Is this something that you would recommend I get into? Guys, Buster said he hadn't made that call. So why is Dieter what's wrong with his takes of saying that It doesn't look like there's a plan right now, okay? If you watch the press conference, what are you going to do? What's your first thing you're going to do? Is Melvin have a extension? What's going on? You fired Farhan, and then you just, boom, the next day, Buster's in charge, and there's nobody set in place. Why not just fire Farhan? Why not fire Farhan? What's the hurry to bring Buster in? You think Buster couldn't have been doing this job right now, getting things in place, talking to people this week without being announced as Pobo? What was the hurry to make Buster the Pobo? To get everybody excited? It did. It got me excited even first. But then I started thinking, actually, Dieter made me do a double take. Not that Buster's for sure going to fail. It's very possible he succeeds. The key is going to be, who does Buster hire? And if he's able to get that person hired, for all we know, he may already have a deal in place. And that could be the plan. That could be the plan. But they did move on, Bub Rab. The point was, they fired Farhan. They are moving on. But now they're looking like an organization that, okay, we got to go find a GM. And the guy who's in charge of finding the GM doesn't really know what the job entails.
There's a lot of things that don't make sense, and there's a lot of question marks. We could go back to last year when 2023, at the end of the season, they fired Kapler and they kept Farhan. That was a perfect opportunity to just do a complete reset on the organization. I don't understand. It was really clueless to me why they fired Kapler and kept Farhan on. Because both of us, all of us, and when Eric was here, he thought it didn't make sense. And there was a realistic possibility that Farhan was going to be gone the next year. So then you would, and it's still really interesting because Posey and Greg Johnson, they were asked, does Bob Melvin have an extension? And there was a non-committal answer. He does not have an extension.
We don't like to make that public, he said.
Yeah, we don't like to make that public. But then he made public that Buster's got a 3-year extension.
What a clown. That's a clown, okay?
Yes, Robert. Yes, Robert. You gave to Posey because he wanted the position. Exactly. He wanted the ball.
He wanted the ball. Okay. Well, what happens if Jeremy Shelley said he wanted the ball? Or whatever his name is. First name. I don't know. Shelley. The assistant GM. Jeremy. Hey, I want the ball too. Well, I'd like that job. Why aren't you giving him the job? He's got more experience than Buster.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why aren't you giving it to Pete Patui? He probably wanted the job.
He's got more experience than Buster.
Yeah. Why aren't you giving it to, hey, if Ned Colletti called and said, I'd like the job, or Brian Sabian, I'd like the job, or anybody else that had experience. I get it. Buster's an icon. Buster is, like I said, guys, my dog is named Buster. Okay.
Dan, I think you're cutting out a little bit.
On here. Let me check something. I might got too many. Hold on.
Okay. Dan will be right back. Robert, yeah, he wanted the position. Just because someone wants the position doesn't necessarily mean you give him the position. To me, you have to, and maybe they did. Maybe when Greg Johnson was asked, and when Posey and Greg Johnson both were asked, and I don't remember if it was the same or separate interviews. When did this start to take place? When did this happen? It was kind of a non-committal answer, and they kind of said, and they kind of made it out to be like it wasn't that long ago, and it wasn't like a year-long establishment. It didn't take too long, and it was pretty quick. I don't know if that's right. They might just be blowing smoke up our ass. They might just be completely lying to us. That's a possibility. But if just because Buster asked for the job, you're going to give it to him, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to succeed. He's a great person. He's a great player. That doesn't mean he's going to be a great executive. I mean, he was an owner. He was part of the ownership group for what, 2 years? Was he he wasn't going back to business school like John Lynch was, but was he getting experience in some ways in 2 years? I don't know. Maybe he was, but to me, it's just he asked for it and he got it. So you know what? This is all on Buster. It's going to be up to Buster. If he just completely fails, and that's a great possibility, that he just completely bites it. Dan, you're muted.
I don't know what I'd put the odds at with Buster succeeding, but guys, think about this. The Giants are starting with the worst farm system from one publication, Bleacher Report, a well-respected, publication of baseball. Most accounts, everybody has. Do you feel better if they're 22nd or 23rd? I mean, it's still really, a bad farm system. Guys, I want to show you something. I brought this up last night. I want to show you guys something about the farm system. Okay, when you rank a player, Bleacher Report, potential player, talent, overall depth, high-end talent, okay? There's a difference between a prospect who has a chance of making an impact in the majors and a prospect who could be a star. Elite prospects served as a tiebreaker when teams were close in the rankings. A tier system was used to help differentiate the varying levels of individual talent. Tier 1, prospects who have Tier 1, prospects who have elite skill sets and all-star potential. This is the cream of the prospect crop. These players make up Bleacher Report's top 100 prospect list heading into the offseason. Tier 2, prospects who have a good chance of becoming impact contributors. These are the players who were in consideration for spots on Bleacher Report's top 100 prospect list and could end up there in the future. Tier 3, prospects who profile as fringe major league contributors or young players who are still too raw to project any higher. This tier represents the bulk of prospects around baseball. Get that? The bulk. There's 5,000 prospects and organizations throughout all the way down to the rookie leagues, though more than a few could climb. Well, that's not actually true. 5,000 prospects in the game. There's 5,000 prospects when you're considering drafting. Okay. That's scouting junior college, high school. Okay. But there's literally more than 1,000 people in baseball minor leagues. Teams were ranked based on the cumulative tier ranking total of their top 10 prospects, and the rankings were then subjectively tweaked from there. Okay, these are the top 10. Okay, look at the Giants here, guys. Look here at the Giants rankings. Bryce Eldridge, tier 1. Okay, he's a star potential. Okay, we just read what tier 1 means. James Tibbs, their number 1 draft pick, is not even tier 1 yet. What does that tell you? Carson Wisenhunt, tier 2. Remember, tier 2. Prospects who have a good chance of becoming impact contributors. These are players who were in consideration for spots in the top 100. Okay, then we get to tier 3. By the way, you remember what tier 3 are? Most prospects in baseball. Okay, the Giants are loaded in their. This is just their top 10 guys, not their whole. They didn't just take 10 random guys. That's the Giants' top 10, and 7 of them are tier 3s.
I'll give him a pass on Rainer Arias because he's tier 3, but they also said that tier 3 means a player too young to be profiled. Rainer Arias is super young. He was their international.
He's a Luciano. He's a Luciano boss.
Exactly. Yeah. He could be really good or he could be a bust. We don't know.
Look at Grant McRae, already at tier 3.
Grant McRae is an interesting topic because, and we can talk about this for a second.
There a little bit. Did you freeze? No,
I don't think so. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Dan?
Yeah, I hear you. Let me see what's going. Hold on, I got to check my system. I make sure I don't have too many things on the internet. Hold
Okay. He'll do that. Grant McCrae. We can talk about Grant McCrae for a second. He has 4 out of the 5 tools that you're looking for. He has speed. He has power. He has a great arm. He has a great glove, but he cannot hit the ball. He just can't make contact. He has a near 50% strikeout percentage. He has a 40% strikeout rate. You're not going to succeed if you strike out almost half the time. It's just you can have all the tools in the world, but you're just not gonna pan out if you cannot hit the ball. And right now, Grant McCrae cannot hit the ball.
Let's contrast this by looking at the Dodgers. They're number 8. They've got 4 tier 1s. They only have 2 tier 3s. The Giants have 7 tier 3s. Okay. Let's keep moving. Let's look at the A's. Look at the A's. They have 5 tier 1s and 2 tier 2s. Okay. Max Muncy, not Max Muncy's son either. The Oakland system has quietly produced some quality talent in recent years, including Mason Miller and Lawrence Butler, who have emerged as stars in 24. Outfielder Cole B. Thomas and first baseman Nick Kurtz are 2 of the best power-hitting prospects in baseball, and the latter hit .368 with 520 slugging, 763 OPS, and 50 plate appearances between single A and double A. Detroit Tigers in the playoffs. We saw this Jackson Jobe actually pitch in yesterday's winning game. He didn't have a great outing, but look at that. 5 tier 1s, more tier 2s. Cleveland, we'll move ahead of Cleveland. Cubs, they have 6 tier 1s. Look at this, guys. These are Boston Red Sox. Roman Anthony, he's like top player.
They have 6 tier 1s.
6 tier 1s. The Tampa Bay Rays, just under 500. 4 tier 1s, no tier 3s. Okay. And then number 1, the Mariners, 6 tier 1s, no tier 3s. The Giants are full. I don't know how to keep pointing this out, but baseball does not look at the Giants well, guys, when it comes to their prospects.
And why should they?
And is this why the Giant Farhan couldn't make trades? Maybe he tried. I don't know. I'm not trying to defend him. Believe me, he needed to go. Okay. I'll repeat that. Look, I don't have to repeat myself. Look, I got Farhan buried behind me right there on the wall. Okay. I was not a Farhan fan, and I don't want to even be, but I also want to be fair in reporting that the Giants are a mess still. Okay. The Giants are an absolute mess. Buster Posey would probably be better taking over the White Sox. You know why? Because the White Sox have a farm system, at least. You know how many tier 1 players the White Sox have?
How many?
Pull it up. I'm just going to look at it. I know they're ranked number 13 in baseball. Okay. Hold on. The Rockies are 11, by the way, so they're going to surpass the Giants at some point.
Pretty soon.
Okay. The White Sox have 4 tier 1s and 2 tier 2s and 4 tier 3s. But 4 top prospects. The Giants have one, guys. And you could say that, well, that's subjective. Well, how many have we seen the Giants? I mean, look, I am trying to I'm not trying to pour ice on the whole thing. I think Tyler Fitzgerald is a very talented player. I like him. I don't know if he's going to be a star. He seems to me like a guy that has a hole, and it can be exploited, and he's going to have to adjust to that because he strikes out a lot on sliders. He hits them if they're hung, like any major league hitter would do. But if it's not a hanging slider, he's chasing a lot of balls outside the strike zone and swing and miss because he's not seeing it well. Anybody can hit a hanging slider right down the middle. Okay. It's probably I think it's the easiest pitch to hit unless you got a fastball that's coming at you at about 92. I mean, a fastball at 100 with a lot of movement is not easy to hit, even if it's straight down the middle, because it's coming fast and you have very little time. But a hanging slider that just comes right, it's just, So if you go back and look at some of most of Fitzgerald's homers, they were all grooved pitches. Okay. That's not to say that happens with every home run for the most part. I mean, think about it. Home runs are, for the most part, probably mistake pitches by guys. But there's a lot of hitters. Look what Pete Alonso did tonight, guys. Perfect example. What was he trying to do? He was just trying to make contact.
Oh my! We could talk about this. The Mets in that 9th inning, Brandon Nimmo. If you just watch his swing, it was a short, compact swing, and then Jesse Winker comes up. He gets hit. What does Jesse Winker do? He steals second base to get himself into scoring position. What does Starling Marte do? He shortens up, goes to right field, and Jesse Winker scored. That was a nice insurance run. That's how you play baseball.
And Pete Alonso, he had actually shortened his swing because he wasn't trying to hit a home run. He was just trying to drive it somewhere to right field, hoping, hey, maybe I get it into the gap and I tie the game up with 2 runners on, or I hit it down the right field line. He just happened to hit the sweet spot and he got it out of there to right field. But that is the type of hitting that you have to do. So I guess what I'm saying is having Buster around is great. Okay. It's going to make a difference in the culture. Okay. But culture can only last so long if you're not winning. Okay. Now, how does Buster turn things around? He's going to have to develop players. You're not going to be able to sustain the free agency. Let's say he brings in Soto, okay? And he brings in Adames. I take you back to the Angels last 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years. They had Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. They didn't have a lot of else. They lacked pitching, and was their big issue. But they never made the playoffs. They barely had years of 500. And they had 2 of the greatest players of this generation. And Shohei, maybe one of the definitely top 10 players of all time, but probably when it's all said and done, he'll be in the top 5. And maybe some people will say he's the greatest. Okay. But look what Shohei is this year. Why is Shohei? I mean, Shohei had a great year last year. And he pitched too until he got hurt. What's the difference?
He's on a better team.
Got a bunch of guys that play ball.
Your farm system is the foundation of your ball club. If you don't have a great farm system, you don't attract free agents and you can't trade because no one wants your prospects. Let's look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers consistently have a great farm system. They're always in the top 10. They're always sometimes in the top 5, and they always trade away these players. They traded away their players to get Mookie Betts. They traded away prospects to get Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. They traded away their prospects this year to get Michael Kopech and Jack Flaherty. They are consistently trading away their prospects because their prospects are valuable in return for proven MLB veterans. Look at the Padres. The Padres this past year traded away a bunch of their prospects for 2 top-of-the-line relievers, and that might push them over the top. Dan, I know you very high on the Padres. I'm high on the Padres too.
After the trade deadline, I picked the Padres to be represent the National League. Okay, and they may win it all. I mean, it's very possible the Dodgers beat them. It's going to be a great series. We got the National League is really exciting this year with the divisional series. I mean, you got again 2 division rivals going to each other. 2-hour drive if you want to hop in the car and drive to the game, and for the players, it's a perfect setup. It's a 30-minute flight. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better setup for these 2 teams. Both teams will come in rested and probably pretty healthy. I'm assuming Freddie Freeman's ankle will be fine. So it's going to be really fun baseball to watch, and the crowds are going to be energetic. I would say the best crowds are going to be in San Diego and Philly and New York. I would put the Dodgers 4th as the crowd in the National League. I think their fans are, I don't think they're nearly as rabid as these other franchises fans. So, but how can I say this with the whole thing with Buster is, guys, just because he's Buster Posey, how did Michael Jordan do with the Washington Wizards? Anybody?
Not great.
Yeah. How did Derek Jeter do with the Marlins?
Not great.
I mean, you could say, well, they weren't the same franchises that they loved. Well, come on. You think they went in there to fail?
No, they always want to win.
Yeah, these guys are competitive that believe they can do this. They believe that because they're competitive, like I'm pretty darn competitive too. And I think I could go in and make some pretty good trades and run a team, but I would probably fail at that level because I've never done it. Okay. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't give it my best and I would be, but I mean, I don't know. I just don't understand. I don't understand everybody's mentality. I get it. It worked. It worked right away for me too. Buster Posey's taking over. And then all of a sudden, I read Dieter's article and that's why I asked him to come on the show. Reality started setting in. I'm like, wait a minute. What am I getting all excited over Buster Posey taking over this whole thing and thinking about what's he going to do? He's not running this team day to day. He doesn't have the experience, the wherewithal, the hours it will take to run. So he's got to hire a GM.
A lot of people in the chat are saying it's an improvement. To me, you can't compare the two because Farhan, you can compare their roles. They're the same roles. Farhan was president of baseball operations. Posey's president of baseball operations. But Farhan was running everything. I mean, when he was hired, he didn't have a GM. He hired Scott Harris the next year. He was in 2019. He did the whole thing. Farhan ran it. It was his ship to run. Posey isn't doing that. Posey's going to hire somebody, and the person he hires is going to be running the day-to-day operations. So to me, it's not. You can't compare the two because you can compare their roles, but you can't compare what they actually do because Posey is going to implement a culture, and that's not what Farhan did. Farhan actually did day-to-day operations and all that. That Posey isn't doing that. Whoever he hires is going to be doing that.
Exactly. Keep going here. I got to send this text here.
Okay. It could be an improvement. It's definitely an improvement in some aspects. For example, the culture. I'm going to keep on going back to the culture. It is 100% an upgrade in culture. But if you're just looking at player personnel wise, Posey isn't going to be looking at the margins. Posey isn't going to be. The one thing I'll give Farhan credit for, and he's great at this, is finding players he dumpster dives. Lamont Wade, Tyro Estrada, Mike Yastrzemski. Those guys aren't, in my opinion, starting caliber players, but they're a valuable asset to a team in the playoffs. I mean, Austin Slater was on the Orioles roster. Austin Slater got a hit against the Royals the other day. I mean, he's horrible, but teams need him because he's an asset on the lower end of the roster, on the 25th, the 26th man of the roster. I mean, Mike Yastrzemski is not a starting right fielder on a lot of teams. He's a starting right fielder for the Giants because the Giants are horrible. He's not a starting right fielder for the Dodgers. He's not a starting right fielder for the Yankees. He's not a starting right fielder for the Padres. He's a fourth or fifth outfielder. Farhan's good at finding those guys. And honestly, I think Farhan would be a pretty good number 2. Because you can, if someone else is running the day-to-day operations, he's in the background just scavenging the waiver wire and scavenging what he can get the most out of players. Posey's an improvement in the culture, but I don't think you're not going to be finding these Mike Yastrzemskis and Tyro Estradas and Lamont Wades with this Posey regime. There's a good chance you're not.
Look how bad Farhan was. We talked about how bad he was, right? He actually got the Giants to 80 and 82 with a -6 run differential, pretty much right in the middle of the pack of baseball, maybe slightly below. Okay, so what I'm saying is Farhan was able to take, a team full of mids. Okay,
a bunch of mids.
What is Posey going to do to make it that much better? He's going to have to either sign free agents, make trades, or develop. And again, I go back to what's there to trade to bring back value. This is why I said that your best asset to trade and rebuild is Logan Webb. They're never going to do it because Logan Webb's the guy, and I get that, and I love Logan Webb and want to keep Logan Webb. But if you want to get the Giants to start having a future, you have to bring in players that, like a Kobe Mayo, like a Jordan Westbrook, guys that could contribute and that are young and that have some star potential, like Kobe Mayo. That guy can mash, okay? He plays third base, but now you got Matt Chapman, and you're building around a 32-year-old, guys.
Yep.
I don't get this. Baseball's a young game. Your prime is 27 to 32. He's leaving his prime. He's exiting his prime. And you just signed him to a 6-year deal. And everybody thinks that's a great deal. And that's Buster Posey that got that deal done. Okay.
Farhan did not want to do that deal.
Farhan said that did not fit the
model.
The model. And the model was 4 years. Okay. You just gave a guy 2 extra years. Now, if you have the confidence that you could go ahead and bring in Juan Soto, and because you have Matt Chapman and Juan Soto, and you can bring in a Willy Adames, and you can bring in a Teoscar Hernandez or whoever, or you can bring in a Corbin Burns or a Max Fried, and you have a nucleus of, all of a sudden you have star players around because of you signed Matt Chapman to a couple of extra years that beyond his life of what he'll probably have any production. That's great. It gets you something good. It was worth it. But if you don't get Juan Soto, which I'll just come out and say I don't think they're getting Juan Soto. Okay. I don't think Juan Soto is going to say, okay, I want to go be the guy, as a lot of people promote and say, you're going to be the guy. You're going to be the guy. Well, you're going to be the guy in a park that is going to, make your lifetime stats probably get worse. Do you think Juan Soto really wants to do that? And you really think the Giants are going to offer way more money than the other teams? I mean, maybe that's what Buster can do. Maybe Buster is able to convince ownership that, hey, the only way I can do this job and be successful is I need superstars.
Does ownership want to spend that money, though? Larry Bear doesn't want to spend that money. Does ownership want to spend that money? And I don't know if they do. We all remember Greg Johnson's comments. I don't. Was it the beginning of the year? We want to break even. Those were his words. That's quoted. They don't want to spend. They don't want to be in the luxury tax. That's why they tried. That's why they got rid of Jorge Soler, because they didn't want to spend money. They should. And I mean, I'll give them credit. The ownership spent in the offseason. They got Chapman. They got Snell. They got Soler. They spent. But, I mean...
There's the number one comment of the night right there. Robert Brown, thank you. An experienced guy following baseball. That's why I love having Robert as part of the show. He's a member. After hiring a GM, Posey needs to build up the scouts, to build up the minors. This is a 3 to 4 year process. Yes. That's if they really start to rebuild it. If they keep trying to win and keep finishing in the middle, so they win 84 games with Buster in a year or two, and they go 84 and 78, miss the playoffs, and now they're drafting, instead of drafting 14th or 13th or 14th, they're drafting 18th, and you're just
you can sign a Juan Soto and you can sign a Willy Adames. You already signed a Matt Chapman, but Matt Chapman's 32. He's going to be done in a couple years. Juan Soto's going to, I mean, I'm not going to say Juan Soto's going to be done in a couple years, but Juan Soto's going to be exiting his prime in about 5 to 6 years. Willy Adames is going to be exiting his prime in 3 to 4 to 5 years. If you cannot,
was closer to 30.
Is he?
Let me look. I'll look that up.
He's 29.
Yeah, he's closer to 30.
Okay, he'll be
when's he turn 30?
In about 3 years.
When's he turn 30?
Willy Adames turns 30 in...
What's his birthday?
His birthday is September 2nd, so he just turned 29.
Just turned 29. Okay, so it'll be 29 next year.
If you don't have a farm system, you can stay afloat by signing free agents and doing all that. Not for long. Not for long. If you don't have a farm system built to build around, to replenish the guys that you lose, you're not going to be successful. And that's the main thing. You need to replenish that farm system. That's the whole reason. Remember, that's the whole reason Farhan was brought in, to replenish the farm system. And that's the one thing he couldn't do. He could not replenish the farm system.
Right. I did say that Oracle, it wouldn't stop a Judge or a Bonds. I don't think Soto, it will prevent Soto from hitting bombs to triples alley at times. Those balls will fall a little short. Instead of going, being a home run at 415, they're going to die at 410. So I think, the right field porch, if Soto pulls the ball, is perfect. It's perfect
just
place.
Like New York, yeah.
So I think Soto, I've seen Soto hit home runs at Oracle into the bleachers in left field. I've seen him hit it one-handed left field. He got fooled and the bat slipped out and he swung and hit it out. I just don't think Juan Soto first choice is San Francisco.
His first and second choices are probably both New York spots. Probably.
Yeah. I mean, could he do I see Yaz coming back? Steven Ortega says, yes, I do. It's like a 9.something, $9.5 million tender for arbitration, and I think they do. I don't think they just let Yaz walk. I think this will be his last year with the Giants. I don't know if Yaz is. Look,
I'll give Yaz credit this year. Yaz had a pretty good year, and you know what? He played 140 games. If he can just play 140 games consistently and he can put up stats like the way he did this past season, then honestly, I'm fine with him. If you can supplement him with other players, Yaz cannot be your number 1 or number 2 offensive player. He just can't.
Yeah, and we're going to bring in. This is a platoon channel. We like the platoon here. I'm going.
Call the bullpen.
I'm calling to the bullpen, guys. Bring them in. and he comes in.
How you doing, guys?
And
How you doing,
Bora
Lew?
says, "Is Bora going out? Are we sending Bora out to, or is he? Bora, you can stay.
I'll stay on for 5 more minutes, and
Okay.
then I have to dip.
Bora has to get going. He's got school. He's got to study. You know, he's doing things for his life. Unlike Lew and I, were just kind of sitting here. No, we work. Lew and I work, guys. Look, man, Lew, you don't get those front seats in the front of the right in the first row next to the Giants dugout if you're not kicking some butt, right, Lew?
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah. And
but
so,
I have an interesting story, so I'm glad Bora's on there. First of all, I was at a place called Tommy's Mexican Restaurant tonight, and I was minding my business, and the owner was there, and he said, "Lew, what do you think about Buster being the president of operations, basically after they fired Farhan?" And I've done a lot of thinking. I think, hearing the name, not really knowing the job title, watching the show last night, I literally said, you know what? I was so excited for a change, but now I'm super worried because I'm thinking about the whole entire situation. Why did they hire Buster? They don't have a GM yet. Was it out of desperation? Could it be like, right now the Giants don't really have a superstar that when you think, with Willie Mays dead, unfortunately, what's going on? And there were 3 people to the left of me sort of looking at me like I had a problem. And they said, "What do you mean? This is the greatest thing to happen." I go, "Well, first of all, nothing's happened. All we did is get a name that people are aware of to run the team." And I go, "We don't have a GM yet. I hope they don't get the guy from the A's. I think this job is going to basically be either he's going to do a great job, but most likely with our horrible farm system." And the guy goes, "It's not that bad." And I said, "Yeah, it is." I go, "I don't know who you are."
Okay, go start over. You froze somewhere.
No, Dan, I think it's you. I think it's you.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're frozen right now.
I don't know what's going on with my internet tonight. This is, geez, I don't have anything going except
All
this.
right.
Am I still frozen?
No, but you're actually sort of moving in slow motion where Bora's clear and I'm clear.
Jeez.
Might be your camera.
It's not my camera. It's my internet. I don't know what's going on.
Could be. So basically, all of a sudden, the owner looked at me like, "Hey, Lew, just keep it down a little bit," right? Where normally he wouldn't. So I said, "Well," I go, "Hey," he goes, "Oh, do you have tickets?" And I go, "Yeah." I go, "Do you have tickets?" And they said, "No." But one guy goes, I go to a lot of games. I'm not a season ticket holder. And I said, "Well, why in the hell are you talking smack to me? My family's had seats since New York." I go, "The Giants just raised the rates. They've already asked for the money. They have a bad product. And, we're 4th out of 5 teams in one division. Our Giants need a lot of help. But I'm glad at least we took a baby step." And the guy goes, "How can you say it's a baby step?" I go, "Because nothing's been done yet." It's sort of like, you hear something, you're excited. 3 days later, you go, "Oh, my God, did we make a mistake?" To make a long story short, the guy goes, I'll bet you right now the Giants win 90 games next year."
Oh, take that bet.
And I said, "Oh, you want to do it for charity? Let's make it 1,000. And I said, "I'll do this. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do $500 for charity? And then $100, it will be, you can buy the other person's dinner and 2 shots of tequila." And the guy goes, "You're on." And I said, "Okay." I go, "God, you guys sound like you're one of the Susan Slusher or Alex. You're like one of these guys on the Giants payroll. That's pretty pathetic." So all of a sudden, the one guy goes, "Do you have a problem?" And it's sort of funny because I'm at the bar. It seats like 14. I'm in seat 7, and they're 1, 2, 3. So on the way out, I go up to him and I go, "Hey, should we get a witness for this bet?" I go, "Because last time someone made a bet with here, they didn't pay." He goes, "Dude, Julio knows who I am." I said, "Well, I don't know who you are." So the first guy introduced himself. His name's Raymond. And I've sort of seen the girl before. And he goes, well, dude, don't you think Farhan picked up good? I said, no. I thought 6 years is a joke. He's going to be 32 in April. Why didn't we just sign him for 3 years and maybe pay him an extra $5 million a year? And he goes, oh, no, that's good. And I go, the other thing is I brought up the core four. Everyone knew their assignment. And I go, the Giants don't have any assignment. No one knows anything. I go, we've had 2 good things this year. We now have Ramos, and then I said we now have a stopper. I go, but we unfortunately don't know anything else. It was a horrible year. We weren't even 500. We've had 1 winning season in 6. So then he started mentioning pitchers, this guy. I go, we're not going to have Snell next year unless we overpay him. I go, Mr. Overrated Harrison wasn't ready for the majors, but we had nobody else, so we had to get him. We have a guy off Tommy John that pitched 1 good game, but if you remember in that first inning, he should have given up 8 runs, right? So we don't even know how he's going to respond next year. I go, he goes, oh, what about who's the other pitcher,
Webb?
the young kid?
Webb?
No.
Birdsong?
Birdsong?
Birdsong, yeah. I go, he's good, but you know what? Next year, it's going to be another year where the major is going to catch up to him. And I go, and then this guy, the one guy, the third guy goes, what do you think of Webb? He goes, do you know that he's led the league? I go, I don't care. He goes, he was second last year in Cy Young. I go, he had a losing record. Second of all, you're talking about one guy. Our record last year, we were 79 and 83. Being a season ticket holder, if a guy, that tells me that pitching overall in the National League sucked. Okay? If a guy has a good ERA but has a losing record, I go, this year, are you aware that Webb with the Giants, when he started, has a losing record? He goes, oh, it's just a coincidence. And I go, oh, you're like one of these guys thinking Webb is Matt Cain. First of all, Matt Cain won a ring. Webb hasn't won anything. So let's remember that. So he goes, well, here, I'll just introduce myself. My name's Tristan. And I go, oh, like Tristan Beck? He goes, yeah, that's me. So it's actually Beck, the pitcher of the Giants. So I'm sitting there, and it turned out the main guy is one of the analytic guys who worked with Farhan. He's the guy that made me the bet. He assured me we're going to win 90. I said, you're smoking. And then the other girl was in charge of VIP merchandising. And at the end, I go, you know what, Tristan, I don't mean to be mean, but you guys have disappointed me this year. Next year will be the same. No, you're nuts. We got busted. I go, I don't understand. The Giants have done nothing. All we have is a ballpark that everyone criticizes. Okay. You guys are down on season ticket holders. He goes, oh no, it's not like 7,200. He goes, it's like 9,200. I go, so 1/3 of the thing is filled. The rest of you guys got to put up $10 tickets. I go, you're a player. Don't you like playing in front of, full houses? And, it started getting sort of, I didn't want to be so negative since he does play for the Giants. But I say, hey, all I know is I'm sick of all the homers. There are too many homers out there. Nobody faces reality. I go, how can you be happy playing on a team where they're happy when you're 4th in a division? I go, are we going to be better than LA next year? Well, no, we can't. We don't have the money. I go, that's a lie. I go, are we better than San Diego? He goes, oh, they got lucky. I go, how'd they get lucky? I go, they basically traded away.
Who's this you're talking to now? The guy in the front office?
No, the analytic guy.
The analytic guy. Okay, yeah.
Tristan just sort of sat there. He was very polite. He's so thin, and so young. I didn't know it was him. And then the girl just sort of laughed the whole time because he kept saying, where are your seats? And I go, I'm right in the front row. I go, I've had tickets since New York. And he kept saying, well, what's your last name? I go, does it really matter? So to make a long story short, we made the bet, right? I got 2 witnesses, the bartender and the owner. And I told him, I said, hey, I hope you're wrong. I go, but it's been so hard to go see the Giants. They put
you meant to say you hope you're wrong?
Yeah, I'm wrong. I go, yeah, I don't mind. Yeah. I'd love for the Giants to win 90. I'd love for us to be in the playoffs. But instead, what are we doing? You guys are drinking in a Mexican restaurant, drinking shots of tequila, and getting ready for golf. No playoffs. Right? So at the end, I felt really bad because, I didn't really knew it was Beck, but I knew the other girl looked familiar. And then the owner came over and goes, God, Lew, you were pretty fierce tonight. You know who they are, right? And I said, no. And he goes, oh, well, this guy was one of Farhan's right-hand man. He's one of the analytic guys. He's been in the business for a long time. All this stuff. And it's okay, well, it doesn't impress me. And then he goes to the girl, she's the VP of merchandise. And I go, my God, how many Hawaiian shirts could they give away to get people in? I go, they don't even do bobbleheads anymore. And then he goes, what about Beck? I go, Beck, I sort of tell you the truth, I forgot he was even on the team. And I just said, hey, I don't mean to be mean, but, I'm a real fan. And if I knew who they were, I probably wouldn't have spoken like that. But, I think too many people are on the Kool-Aid. It's the same thing. These people, it really opened up my eyes last night, Dan, what he said, because you know what? I never thought of it that way. I didn't
either until I read the article.
I never thought of it being, with our farm system, like what you showed tonight, our future is so bleak.
Yeah.
That maybe it wasn't desperation to put Buster in, but I think Buster probably, with all the owners, said, fine, if nobody's going to do anything about it, I own 4% of the team. I want 7%, and I'll do the job myself, because this organization is getting worse. We're not getting better.
Yeah, I think
the
Buster,
teams you got to compete with have a brighter future, and we're like stagnant.
See, I think Buster might be one of the only guys in the ownership group that actually cares about the winning. And I think the rest of the owners, it's not that important. Believe me, guys. Believe me. They won 3 world championships. That is enough for them. They are all about Mission Rock. They don't care if the team wins. They're sitting on a gold mine, and they just want to increase it. They're businessmen. They're not sports guys.
Yeah.
As Boris said, the owner, Steve Cohen of the Mets, was on the field.
Look at Jacob of the Warriors. He's at every game. He's fierce. He meets with the fans. He wants, like, hey, what can we do? He doesn't care about money. It's all about the championships and the rings.
Look, I know that these guys don't care. Look, they don't. Greg Johnson is not watching that many games. He's not. If the media, more particular KMBR, was not coming out against Farhan, they would have kept him. They would have kept him because they're only concerned about what they don't even care about what the 95.7 The Game says or what we say here, because we're not their flagship. Okay. If 95.7, if Bonta and Shasky were on KMBR roasting them, oh boy, Farhan would have been gone.
I remember a good friend of mine named Larry who worked for KMBR actually spoke the truth on KMBR, and he was X'd. Good thing that buddy of mine, Larry, from a couple of years ago, now is well established and knows what he's doing.
Lou, you got me really interested in this conversation, so I'm going to stay on a little longer.
I'm sorry, Bora.
Homework can wait. That was a great story.
It was just so unique, and it was sort of funny because the thing I didn't like is this guy. I even told him, I go, we're looking above us, and he goes, well, he sort of pulled a Robert on me before I knew who he was. He goes, we had a lot of injuries. And I said, oh, yeah, I know. But the Dodgers lost their whole starting staff. Atlanta just got eliminated, but they still made the playoffs. They lost the MVP and 2 pitchers. And a third baseman and the second baseman, and their center fielder. Injuries happen. I go, but you know what's the best thing I heard about all the baseball playoffs is who's the guy who used to be with the A's who's now with Atlanta?
Olsen.
Oh, yeah,
Olsen. Matt Olsen and Sean Murphy.
Said, God, you guys lost your star player. You're going to be going to the playoffs. You got to fly all the way. And he goes, you know what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about it. He goes, you know what? Last year, when we led the league with the most homers, people hated us. When they had 312 home runs, they hated them. Now they're down. They don't care. Everybody has one goal to get to the World Series and wear the ring. And it was so funny. I go. Arizona is young. They have as much money. They didn't spend as much money as us. They have an exciting young team. They also lost their star player for 6 weeks. We keep forgetting. And I go, San Diego, my God, they're going to have rookie of the year. They're going to try to sign him. And their place is crazy because they never won. People forget the Padres have never won.
Right.
They could feel it. They can taste blood. And, you know, unfortunately, I told him, I go, when I go to, he goes, how many games you go to? I go, my God, what are you, a cop? I go, I went to about 15 games this year. I go, you know what? It was quiet. It was slow and it was boring. And he goes, oh, dude, you know, that, you know, it was an off year. I go, how can it be an off year? We spent $60 million more and we won 2 extra games. I go, that's
one
short.
extra game. One extra game.
I know, I gave him an extra. So I go, you know, this is ridiculous. And, you know, it's one of those things because there was another guy who was sitting at the bar and he's a Boston fan, right? And he goes, you know, Lou, I'm going to tell you something. You're lucky because the Red Sox went from winning it to losing it and they wanted everybody fired. They don't have any homers. He goes, in San Francisco, you guys have way too many homers. And he kept saying, you guys all are on the same lemonade. He goes, you know what's funny is he goes, around San Francisco, you guys might be worse than MSNBC and CNN the way they treat Trump. He goes, because here, everyone's excited. Oh, my God, we're 500. But let me tell you something. Once baseball's off, nobody's going to be talking about the Giants anymore. And it's all going to be about the Niners. And the way the press treats the Giants is one way. But imagine if the Giants had been to the World Series 3 of the last 5 years and didn't win like the Niners. They would be bombarded. But since the Niners are sort of, you know, they only play, you know, nobody ever thinks about that. Oh, my God, he lost again. Oh, my God, he lost again. You know, excuses. Oh, well, maybe next time. You know, the Giants get treated so different than the 49ers.
Again, is it me? Are you frozen, Bora?
I can see you, Dan. Now you're frozen. Yeah.
You know, hey, the one thing I did want to ask Bora while you're here, because, you know, this baseball playoffs, except for NHL, is just so different, so unique. You know, the Mets this year sort of have it a little bit. You know, they've had a few games where sort of like when the Giants sort of got these wins they shouldn't have to sneak into the playoffs. You know, I would not be surprised if somehow the Mets, I think maybe they can give Philly a real tough time and maybe beat them. I still don't think they could get to the dance. But, you know, what happens if the Padres beat the Dodgers for the second time in 3 years? The Dodgers don't make the World Series. Do you think maybe you got to fire the manager?
Something will happen. I don't know.
It's going to be on Dave Roberts, I think, because
the way maybe. Well, what say they lose 3-1?
I think something has to change, right?
I mean, my God, you got the most expensive payroll in baseball. I don't know. Somebody brought that up to me today, and it was a very good question. So I at least wanted to ask you guys.
It's all about philosophy, though. I mean, look at the Padres. The Padres have starting pitching, and they have bullpen. The Dodgers don't have starting pitching, and I don't think they have a great bullpen either.
They don't.
They don't. I mean, the
back end Kopech's okay, but they don't have anything in the middle. They're
and you got to remember,
pitching is
they won the World Series in the COVID year. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they're hungry too. So I don't know. I thought it was a very unique question, but I definitely wanted to tell you that about Tommy's today. It was pretty funny.
Is that Tommy's on Geary?
Yeah, on Gary between 24th and 25th.
That's right by my high school. I went to Wash. So
anytime, if you're in town, you want to go. A buddy of mine, Grady's the bartender, and I know Julio, the owner, very well.
All right, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
there we go, Lou. I mean, you had some fun. So Tristan Beck, did you ask him how his shoulder? What was it? His shoulder? He had an aneurysm in it, or
arm or shoulder?
I told the owner I didn't even know he was still on the team. I mean, my God, all I talked about is, I kept telling him, I go, my God, the overrated, Harrison, who can't even spot a fastball. And by the way, he goes, what do you mean he can't? I go, my God, First 2 games of the year, he hit 4 batters. He was. I go, why would the Giants press and the idiots that run the organization say this guy's the next Bumgarner? I go, there's one Bumgarner. Okay, nobody else is ever going to be at that level. Let's remember that. It was a once in a lifetime. This kid probably needs another year in the minors to try to figure out how to spot the ball. And he goes, well, dude, then the guy started saying, the Giants have been trying him and Farhan to get people. And I didn't even know who he was. I go, my God, he picked up 6 bums. I go, most of these guys were ridiculous. I go, probably the most money he spent was a guy that lasted a month and the other one we traded who made the playoffs. Why, we didn't do anything. So I don't know. It was just, one of those things because, hey, I'm a real fan. When you pay to go to the games, you want the best. And when you see mediocre, you got to say it. And Dan, I really appreciate last night and I appreciate a couple of days ago where you said, hey, this guy's going to be on the air. I think it's wise that we see it. The other thing I would recommend, Dan, is now that we do know Mad Bum's in there, maybe get one of your old GMs and tell them what the job really is. What's the difference between a GM?
Mad Bum is what? Or are you talking about Buster?
No, Buster.
Okay.
What exactly is his job? We've heard it from a writer, but what is a president of operations? And what's the difference between him?
Here's how I see the thing being able to work. Okay. And it's the only solution that I see making it work. And I think is what Dieter was pointing out is why did you have to hire Buster first? And why couldn't you have just waited a week, found your GM, worked that out, whoever that person is, and then say your press conference to introduce, and Buster Posey is now taking over as head of the operations. They will be reporting to, whoever that GM is, reporting to Buster, and here's the plan. And, they will be running the day-to-day operations, what Farhan did for the club. Buster will be overseeing it all and and Buster will be in on all negotiations for free agents and trades.
This is a great point by Justin Kerwin. How does Posey know the GM hires even wants Melvin to be his manager? Because Posey's not running the day-to-day operations. It's going to be the GM, and the GM is going to have the most input on this team.
That's probably why it's going to be Billy Owens.
That's a great point because Billy
Melvin is set.
Melvin,
they've already made Melvin the manager. The GM's not going to come in and say, what happens if a GM that they really want a certain guy or woman, and the person says, I want my own manager. I'm not crazy about Melvin's style, and I want my own manager. What are they going to do then? Oh, we're going to fire Melvin now all of a sudden? That looked
Were you guys shocked that Terry Francona went to the Reds?
I like
a
that
little
hire.
bit. I like it.
I like it a lot because if I remember, one of your picks might have been Los. Thought the Reds might be in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They're young, They're energetic. Yep. They use this type of game. I think it's a great hire. 2 franchises he has bought into the top.
There you
with
go.
The Reds in Boston.
Posey was hired first because ownership does not have a clue. Exactly. Ownership does not have a clue. People say, well, Posey wanted the ball. He wanted the job, so you give it to him.
Are we sure? Or did they offer it to him and say, hey, we'll give you a little bit more ownership because we don't have nobody else?
We'll never know that.
We'll never know.
We'll never know the real truth behind the whole situation. We don't know. For all intents and purposes, Posey moved back last year because this was all part of the plan, and they're not going to come out and say, yeah, I moved back and to oversee and get used to what's going on in the front office, and I was going to take over. The plan was all along when I moved back. I mean, think about it. We don't know. I mean, Posey, he may have moved back just to be back in the Bay Area. It's possible he wanted to be back in the Bay Area, but it doesn't make a lot of sense when you moved away from the Bay Area to go be with your family.
And then, remember, because his family, and then I think he had 2 foster kids.
Yeah, less than a year he's moving back, and all of a sudden he's now part of the organization as an owner, and it's like, okay, we don't know. So what we do know is, And again, we may not even know this. They may already have someone picked out, and they may have a gentleman's agreement, and it's done, and they're just waiting for something to take place. But what appears from the press conference yesterday is they don't know what the plan is yet. They gave Buster, I mean, if you watch Buster, he would talk and then he would kind of, I don't have a water bottle here, but he sat and he'd be like playing with his water bottle, looking down. And then he would say, if you just read body language, it was like, we're just, I really love the history, getting to meet Willie Mays, Cepeda, Marichal, Gaylord Perry, we have Mab Bum, Timmy, Belt, bringing back. That's all bringing back this nostalgia.
The glory years, but it's not the same. And baseball's not the same.
Yeah, baseball's not the same. And you're also putting in a guy who's 37 years old, who's never had a job outside of baseball on the field.
Yeah.
The only thing he's ever done in his life besides make commercials is play baseball. And now he is thrust into over entire baseball operations. Now, what I was about to say is this: what can make it work is if Buster hires a true number one or a two that gets paid like a one to run the team.
That's the only way, honestly, that I see it can work. Because if he hires a GM that is just horrible, this thing's going in the ground.
Yeah, if he hires a person that is poor because they have nothing, they don't have a farm system to it's like
acquire players.
It's like if you have a bank account and you're going broke, well, at least I can pull something out of savings and now I've got something that I can, pay the debt. If you're broke in your farm system and you can't bring in top level free agents or make trades, and the only way you can make trades,
we're going to be the same for the next 3 years. And he's going to say, I was the wrong guy. I'm gone. I have a question, Bora and Dan. I know I sent it to Dan, but Bora, did you see what happened to the Miami Marlins today?
They
heard
house.
Something about it, but
was Kapler affected in that? Because I read
but they fired 80 executives. 80.
And Kapler survived.
I didn't see his name on there, but see, they have a problem. Get rid of everybody and start up. That's a rebuilding process.
Mm-hmm.
They could have just said, we're going to have someone to run it. But no, they got rid. I mean, I've never heard of that. Oh, no, maybe it was 70. Sorry. But yeah, they got rid of 70 people. The White Sox, after the worst year ever, they announced yesterday they're going to lower their payroll. They don't, why should they pay what they have when they don't have that good a team? So their payroll, I think, is like $46 million. They want to lower it 20%.
I think it was higher than 46 million. I'd have to look it up with Cots, but I think wasn't it in the 100 range?
At least teams are making an effort when there's a problem.
Yeah. I like what the analogy that Dieter mentioned last night. He says, you fired the president with the Giants, but kept the Congress. You basically kept everybody in
all
place.
The analytic guys are still there.
Yeah. Now you watch, some of those guys are going to leave that work because they worked for Farhan and they wanted to be with Farhan, and they are going to not stay. And I don't know how meaningful that is.
That's not meaningful at all, I don't think.
I got to take my magnesium. It helps you go to sleep better.
I don't think that's meaningful at all, just because I don't value Farhan that much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about analytics. There's no human aspect or anything. The White Sox had opening day 123 million.
I thought it was. So they're going to go down to about 100 million.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they had 123 million?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I figured their payroll was over.
I didn't know. Sorry. I didn't think it was that much because they were so bad.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, they're lowering it 20%.
This is fascinating to me. This and we'll talk more about it in the days ahead because eventually the Giants are going to hire a general manager. I think it's one of three people, and I will put them in this order of odds. I think it's Billy Owens with the A.
A lot of chatter in the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm. Dan cut out, but he's going to say Billy Owens.
Yeah. Am I back?
You're back now, yeah.
Geez, I don't know what's going on tonight. I don't know why I think my internet, maybe all the streaming, maybe I've maxed out. I've got so many, I got unlimited gigabytes.
Too much of the yogurt.
Yeah. So I think Billy Owens would be the highest odds of getting the job. Then I think Jeremy Shelley within the Giants organization, 2, and then Sabian would be the long odds, but would be the guy that I think would be the guy that Buster would want. I don't know if that's realistic, but I'll say this: if it's option 2, that's probably the worst option, Jeremy Shelley. That will mean you got more of the same. You got an assistant from within the organization that was never even that's been there. Yeah, and so I don't. It could be somebody else. I don't know who's. Look, I talked to many.
Is there anybody in the playoffs that maybe we're not thinking about, like an assistant GM for Philly, an assistant GM?
I don't know. Atlanta's out. Atlanta's out now. Maybe you can start talking to their assistants. GM.
Yeah, that one of the guys put up on the thing.
Here's the mistake that the Giants made, in my opinion. You gave Buster Posey the title of president of baseball ops. He's an owner that doesn't need that title right now. They could have made a new title, assistant chairman of the board. How about, assistant chairman of the board instead of, which Greg Johnson is chairman of the board. So he gets the title of assistant chairman of the board, and his role is to oversee baseball, the whole operations. But then you could have actually got out and hired a top GM who's looking to become president of baseball ops. Okay. Now, because Buster's Pobo, the GM,
the guy was
is a lateral charge. Is a number 2 in charge, is a lateral move. And no team's going to allow you to go move over as a lateral move. So
it's not always about
they are now going to have to go after the third man or fourth in the order. And, you might find somebody there that's really good. It's possible. But because you have, why not have just go out, fire Farhan, get it done, and then you look at the situation and you say, okay, we found this guy, and then you announce Buster as Buster's now assistant chairman of the board, and he is over our new president of baseball operations, and Buster will be part of and
there could be somebody that would have taken the job, but since they gave it to Buster, he goes, nah, it's all right, but thanks anyway, guys.
Lou, I know you don't like Billy Owens. Why?
No, I just, I just found out about him probably about 2 months ago when I think it was Susan that was bringing it up on a possible replacement. I don't really know much about him. I just don't like, until tonight when I saw Dan's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, I'm just not a big fan of the A's. I think too many times people are so pissed off at the owners when, if you're a real baseball fan in the Bay Area, the people you should blame are the government because they bent over backwards for the Raiders. They destroyed the Coliseum. They promised everything to the Raiders, and they treated the A's like crap. And, I've been around where I never, I know Los brings it up. I never really didn't like the A's. To me, they were like a AAA team, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I don't really know much about Billy Owens. All I know is, as Lo says, he's not the same guy that went to Syracuse that was a Warrior.
I'll say this, Dan, you and I hopped on the phone earlier and we talked about the A's front office. And, it's really interesting. The A's don't have a president of baseball operations. They have a GM and they have 3 assistant GMs. David Forst is the general manager. Dan Feinstein is one of the assistant general managers, and his title is assistant general manager, major league and international operations. Their second assistant general manager is Rob Neighborhouse, and his title is assistant general manager, baseball development and technology. And the third assistant general manager is Billy Owens, and his title is assistant general manager, director of player personnel. Now, to me, if I were the Giants, I know Billy Owens has experience scouting, but we've seen the A's farm system. The A's farm system is really good. I would be looking at Rob Neighborhouse because he's the guy in charge of baseball development. Billy Owens, and Dan, you brought this up with me, is probably one of the guys that traded away all the A's players to the Braves, for example, and got no one in return. So what does that say about Billy Owens' evaluation of talent?
Right, because he was all in on Christian Pache as the big guy, and Pache, we all know, was a failure at it. But we're talking about Buster as we're just pointing out, guys, just hold off. I'm not going to make my final judgment until I see who the GM is.
Exactly.
Okay. Once I see what the GM is, then I know where Buster's capable of. What's he going to do? Because just because it's Buster Posey doesn't make, if Steph Curry becomes takes what Bob Myers and now what
Dunleavy.
Mike Dunleavy's doing, and all of a sudden he steps into that role with no experience. Is everybody would have the same reaction? Oh, Warriors are back. We got Steph Curry running the show. He's an assassin, a cold-blooded assassin. He's going to put this team together. And, he might. But, guys, this is not just guys that don't do this job day to day. Just because Buster says, I want the job, doesn't mean it's a guaranteed success. We all hope it is. Let's hope Lew loses his bet, and Lew hopes he loses his bet, and the Giants win 90 games, and all of a sudden, but when I pull up that farm system, guys, that doesn't lie.
No.
They are not good on the farm.
That's why they couldn't get Soto originally. You remember when Washington?
Right, you remember that?
They said the Giants don't have anybody worth anything.
Great point. And I brought up, Lew, when you were probably out tonight ripping Tristan Beck. I brought up that is it possible that Farhan couldn't make trades because nobody wanted the Giants didn't have anything that they wanted, and maybe the only thing people wanted was maybe they wanted Webb or Eldridge or
they wouldn't trade anyone unless from the major league roster. You remember we kept saying, hey, they should trade Duvall. Trade Duvall.
But maybe there was maybe everybody wanted Eldridge, and it was the one thing he was smart enough to say no.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot there. If you got one tier one prospect, what makes those tier two prospects or threes better than anybody else's twos and threes?
Yeah. And I keep saying that we got to get rid of the dead wood because we're going to be the exact same situation next year. And we can't have that.
If I was going to bet right now, just based on everything as it stands today, I would say the Giants would be an under 500 team next year and finish in fourth place.
Yeah, they were 80. So the total was 83.5 after they signed Chapman, since Mr. Bohr is here, Chapman and Snell. Now, say we bring back half of our team, we don't really pick up Soto, and we lose Snell. There's no way we're going to win over 83.5. It doesn't matter if we have.
Well, yeah, we
everyone
will. I think we will, Lou. I think you're wrong. I do.
What?
So
We
we'll
have
be a
Buster.
better team without Snell.
Yo, we have Buster.
We do, right? Buster's going to take us to the promised land.
Listen, you
Buster
better
now.
tell your dog. He better
Buster,
step
come here.
up, or he's
here,
in
Buster.
trouble.
Where are you?
I'll say this though about this team. They traded away Soler. I don't know if Soler would have added 4 wins, but he wouldn't have subtracted wins. That's for sure.
No, and you remember how hot he was before we traded him?
That was my whole argument. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you trading him if you're trying to get into the playoffs?
He was
Luciano
our only guy that was making contact and everything.
exactly.
You're exactly right, Robert. That's what I said earlier tonight. The one thing I really blame Farhan for the most is the farm system. It was his responsibility to draft well or hire better people in player development and the minor league operations. Buster, hey, stop, buddy.
And I think Bora brought up a great point last night. The last 3 trade deadlines, when we knew we had guys that we should have traded, even if we did half of the guys we could have got rid of, we would have had probably tier 1 or tier 2 prospects.
They needed to
next year.
Mhm.
They needed to trade for tier 1 prospects. Exactly. This was my point, and I may be proven wrong. Hopefully I am. I have a feeling I won't. I have a feeling you guys just remember I said this at the trade deadline. I think your best chance of really turning the team around was trading Logan Webb. And I know he's in his prime right now, but he's pitched a lot of innings. There's a lot of innings on that arm, and he's got a really
5
good
years,
contract. Yeah,
Very minor league. Very small salary.
he's got a great contract that teams would love to have, and you could picked up probably 2 or 3 tier 1 guys for a Logan Webb and maybe somebody else, and you could have went out and grabbed. And now all of a sudden you got, what was tier 1 again? You remember what the saying was? Top 100 prospects. It looks like I erased it already.
Well, Dan, what about who was the guy we traded to Cleveland for nothing?
Cobb.
A player to be named later. Who was our 6th starter?
Cobb.
Yeah, Cobb. I still don't know why we got rid of him for a player to be named later.
It's because of the money. It's all it was. It was a salary.
All the
dump.
money. We could have used him.
We definitely could, and
After
that's
waiting
why
half the year for him.
that's why the trade deadline to me made no sense, especially this year, because you went all in the offseason. You got Snell, you got Chapman, you got Soler. You wanted to make the playoffs, and then during the trade deadline, you go on and trade away Soler, who was at the time your hottest bat, and he wasn't over the whole season. He wasn't a great bat, but he was your best option at DH. I'm sorry, Marco Luciano, early, like right now, is not a better player than Jorge Soler. Maybe he develops into a great offensive player, but right now Jorge Soler is the better player, and Jorge Soler has a proven track record in the playoffs. That is, he won World Series MVP in 21. Yeah.
Hey, look at this, guys. Check this out. This is the midseason Bleacher Report, and instead of being 30, the Giants were 20th, and they had 3 number 1 tier 1s. They had Eldridge, Birdsong, Luciano, and then even Whitman was in there. Arias a little lower, Dakota Jordan, the draft picks, but Jordan's moved up to what number? Wasn't he now like the 4th prospect, 3rd or 4th prospect? Mm-hmm. And he's a tier. Wasn't he a tier?
He's still tier 3 though.
But he was up. He was the higher tier 3. Yeah. So they've graduated Birdsong and Luciano off of this.
And Luciano isn't tier 1 right now. He's tier 3.
He's not. Well, he's no longer prospect, isn't he?
If you were ranking him as a prospect,
yeah,
he'd be a tier 3 prospect.
And they actually, at the beginning of the season, you want to see where they were ranked. Where do you think they were ranked in the beginning of the season?
17.
Let's check. I have
12.
I would say, I'll say 19. I'm just gonna. Okay, here we go. This is in April. We're scrolling through, see if we see Giants. Was that Giants or Orioles?
No, that was Orioles.
Look at the A's. They went from 26 to 7. Okay, we're scrolling. Diamondbacks. Who said 19? Me?
Wow. All right. There it
Good
is.
guess. Okay, let's see who the players are. Luciano, Eldridge, Wisenhunt, Arias.
So Arias went down from tier 2 to tier 3.
Yeah,
so did Walker Martin.
Mason Black was on there. Grant McCray, but Mason Black. These were the top 10. Look at McCray still on there, Joe Whitman. So, but they're now ranked 30th at the end of the year. Now, this is just one publication's opinion, but nobody has the Giants in the top 15 that I know of. I mean, someone might have had them at 13 at one point, but it'll be interesting.
And I think, Dan, you bring up a great point. We think because we don't have much how great Eldridge is, but he's still 30th overall. There's 29 better players going in next year.
Oh, he's 50th.
Oh, he's 50th. I thought he was 30th.
I think he might move up.
He's going to move up.
He's going to move up. He's going to move up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
know
sure
this. He's healthy. These are the Giants we're talking about.
Right.
Here's the problem with the Giants. They put themselves in a position. If Buster is truly the number one guy that's going to be, over president of baseball operations, and he is not giving the person he hires, what do you want? What's the word? Carte blanche? Do what you want?
Carte blanche, leeway.
Freedom.
Yeah, freedom. If he's not giving the person freedom, but that whatever that person does has to be cleared and okayed by Buster, then you're not getting a top guy. Okay. Because the GMs that I have talked to, they want to be a GM worth his weight in gold. If you went to AJ Preller and said, hey, we're going to, he's out of a job. Let's say AJ Preller, let's say Dave Dombrowski, they're out of jobs, right? And Buster says, oh, I'm going over and get them. Hey, you're going to report to me and everything. You think those guys are going to say, hey, do it my way, or I don't want it. I don't want the job. And that's the problem with Farhan. Ownership would not let Farhan rebuild or tear it down. And Farhan wasn't strong enough to say, screw you, I'm doing it my way, or I'm out, and come out and say, I couldn't do the job the way I wanted to do it. Farhan was too weak and passive, and you could see it in the way he presented himself. So no GM worth their weight, anybody with the leadership skills, the type A that wants to, it's dang it, I'm the man, is going to take the job. You're going to get a yes person or a person who just wants to be promoted and will take the money and have that role.
Yeah, Dan, I think you're making a great point, because
Nick
Colletti went from an assistant GM to the Dodgers, where he was the top GM.
Right.
He didn't take a lateral or demotion. Nope. People think, you got to remember.
You think Ned could be lured? You think Ned could be lured back into the game to be a second guy?
I don't know. He loves hockey so much. Oh yeah, why would he come back here?
He's not coming back for any job. If Ned gets offered a job and he's going to leave his nice lifestyle, he's not coming back just to be the second man.
And that's why Brian Sabean would be the best hire, because Posey respects Brian Sabean. Posey played under Brian Sabean.
He would listen.
Posey would be listening to Brian Sabean in the official role. Posey's above Brian Sabean, but behind closed doors, Brian Sabean's the guy.
And that's that's the only way this works.
Yep.
The only way this works, and I've said it over and over again, guys, is if Buster hands the reins over to somebody that is competent, that has the personality to make bold moves, because it's going to take some bold moves. You're not going to win on the margins, okay? They don't have enough talent to win on the margins. So if they're going to find somebody, whether it's, I don't care who it is, but it's somebody that's very competent and they have full reign to, the only thing that they have to do is answer to ownership when they want to go over the budget. Hey, we've heard Ned say, when his hands were tied in LA, McCourt they didn't have the money. He couldn't make the deal, but he still got Manny Ramirez. He still got Manny Ramirez, even though he says, I can't pay a dime. I can't. My hands are tied. And he got Ramirez. Okay. You're going to have to find a guy who has full freedom, full reign to run the business operations, the managing the player development, managing the system, and being able to do it. Because if he can't, you're not getting a good leader. You're not getting somebody that's, and I think Buster knows that. I really do. I don't think Buster's a dummy. I think Buster knows that he's got to hire somebody that knows what they're doing. And I don't think Buster's the type of guy that's going to be micromanaging people. I really don't.
I think they said it. He said it himself. He's not going to be micromanaging.
Yeah. So I think they end up going probably with this guy from the A's, Billy Owens. His name's the one that keeps getting thrown out there. If I was betting, that's my bet. Okay. Billy Owens from the A's. He's got scouting. Buster mentioned preferably someone with scouting. Okay. He's not going to hire somebody that I believe that doesn't have a scouting background. Farhan didn't have a scouting background. Buster's going the different direction. We're going 180, I believe, here.
Complete 180. You need someone with a scouting background because that person is going to be looking at the draft, and the draft is where you replenish the farm system. And that's where you're most depleted. Yeah. So
it may even be two guys. The guy you mentioned.
I didn't know the A's had 3 assistants. I like that. One third responsibility. That tells you how hard the job is.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Nick says he wants someone from Baltimore or Boston. How about Tampa Bay or Atlanta? They've got some pretty good guys too, but Tampa Bay runs a lot of the analytics stuff.
That's the thing.
I don't think Buster wants that much analytics. That emphasis.
Dan, do you think that's why Buster sort of retired early? He didn't really like all the analytics stuff, but now he's coming to a job where you need analytics.
You're going to need analytics. I mean, baseball. You can't run a department and just go out and say, "Hey, go play ball."
Analytics are a part of a game.
Yeah,
and they're here to stay. But you can't run a ball club without the human aspect and the human element, because in the playoff, and this is what I've said before, and this is I'm super strong on this in this stance. Analytics are a regular season. Analytics can be great for the regular season because it's a 162 game season. It's super spread out. So the odds are going to be in your favor. If it's the same thing if you flip a coin, right? If you flip a coin 10 times, it might be 7 heads and 3 tails. But if you flip a coin 500 times, it's going to be closer to 50-50. If you spread out analytics over a 162 game season, analytics are going to be right a lot of the times. But in the playoffs, players step up and it's a different ball game. That's when managers manage, and it's all about the players and the managers. Analytics are a lot of times out of the door.
Yeah. Let me give you a few examples of how analytics screw you in the playoffs versus the eye test.
3, 2, 1. Blake Snell,
Tampa Bay. There's the one side of analytics. You want the other side? 1, 2, 3, Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah.
Okay. That would never happen in today's game. Allow Madison Bumgarner to go 5 innings after he pitched a complete game 2 days earlier.
How about the Dodgers throwing in Max Scherzer 2021 to get the final out against the Giants?
Pretty much messed him up for his career after
that's
that.
True.
But yeah, guys, this comment that you're reading up on the board right there, Robert Brown. Robert Brown's been on this show as a guest and a call-in guest. He knows the game. If Buster doesn't hire a strong GM, we are screwed. That is it right there in a nutshell. Okay. And everybody believes Buster will do it. But there's a chance that this person doesn't work out. Okay. Look, the Giants are in a situation where who's their first baseman this year? Maybe it's Eldridge. Okay. So he's 20-year-old coming in, possible phenom. And, okay, who's their second baseman? Who's their shortstop? You know who your catcher and third baseman is. Your left fielder, probably, your right fielder is probably Ramos, and your center fielder's Lee. Who's your left fielder? One outfield position we don't even know. So you've got first base, second base, shortstop, and one outfield that really you're not 100% sure who's taking that role.
And you have a bunch of fringe MLB players right now. I mean, I'm not going to call Tyler Fitzgerald a fringe MLB player. Casey Schmidt, Marco Luciano, Luis Matos, and Grant McCrae. That's 4 guys.
Yeah.
44% of your lineup, Dan.
Yeah. Robert Brown also says he believes Buster will stand up to ownership. I think he will. I mean,
I think he has, and I think that's why.
I think he has, and I think that's why he has the ball.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think he said, "Look, this thing is out of control. It needs to be revamped. The only thing that cannot happen is it's not going to happen on just good vibes." Okay, the good vibes. Look, we got a candidate going around saying we got good vibes. Okay. But that doesn't make them okay. Whatever. I'm not going to go there. Good vibes and joy doesn't get things done. It's a plan. It's a plan with a clear-cut plan put in place, and getting the best people, and going out and hiring the best people, and having those people train people up. And some people. You get stars like Eldridge, and they're going to be good no matter what. Other guys have to be developed. Okay. And the Giants are not, who are they developing? Who's been developed? Ramos.
Yeah, we got 5 months till spring training. We'll all love Buster, but when spring training starts and we realize, oh my God, either we're in the same situation or a worse situation, we're not going to be thinking, we're going to be thinking, oh my God, we made another mistake. We need to see results.
I'll say this one last piece, and then I have to get out of here. Well, it's 2 things actually. One, I think Posey has the right intentions. I think he wants to take this ball club and he wants to turn it around. It's just a matter of, can he do it? And it's honestly, it's a tall task. It's a very tall task, to say the least, saying that he doesn't have any experience. 2, I can see a scenario where this team comes into spring training and it's a really good team just because of those players I mentioned. Casey Schmidt, the last, week or 2, this last road trip and then this homestand, he looked great. I mean, if you go by
second, short, and 30 played.
Exactly. If you go by the numbers, Casey Schmidt, I think, had a 115 OPS plus. That means he's 15% better than the average of the league. I mean, that's a positive. Luis Matos, I can see a scenario where he comes into camp prepared and ready to play and ready to prove that he wants a spot on this team. I can see the same with Marco Luciano. I mean, I can see it. I just don't know if it's going to happen. It's a possibility. So I'm not going to, if those guys, Casey Schmidt, Marco Luciano, and Luis Matos, if those guys come into training camp and they look like they're ready to play, then this might be a good year for the Giants. But if
absolutely, great point, Bora. And I'll take it further and add one more layer to that. I think this team gets maybe just wins a couple more games better, just on a cohesiveness of a culture
I
that
think so
feels
too.
better about the entire organization, because it always starts at the top. And I think that's where Buster's going to make the biggest difference. Is he's going to create that culture that Sabian created, where there's championship medal,
Yes.
and it's going to have to, trickle
And there's
down.
an expectation. There's
Yes,
an expectation.
because with Farhan, there wasn't that. And it was really obvious, and it trickled down to mediocrity throughout the whole, player, the whole, everything it was just bad. And I think these guys get invigorated. I think they are empowered. Some of these guys, like you mentioned, Casey Schmidt, maybe Matos, Luciano. Let's see if the best thing the Giants can do next year, whether, and this is what I believe, I think the best thing they can do is, now you've got Chapman, but go play all those guys: Matos, Schmidt, Ramos, Lee, Fitzgerald, and develop a team attitude of speed, contact hitting, teach contact hitting, get these guys and let these guys just play. And you know what? It might end up in a 75 and 87 team. It might just be that. But you know what? You got to start somewhere. If the other option is go out and get the stars in free agency. Long shot, in my opinion. I don't think they land Soto. I don't think they probably land Adames. My guess is they end up with somebody like a Santander or something.
The worst case scenario, though, and this is to not have a plan. Either have a plan with going with free agency, or have a plan to go with the young kids.
Yeah, don't go mid again. Don't go the mid fringe.
Exactly, and don't set such high expectations that we're gonna go all out in free agency, and then we have to play the young guys because we didn't get anybody.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll end it on this. Lew ran into good vibes at dinner tonight. Lew handled it well. I think you handled it well. I mean, hey, I think it's good you didn't know it was Tristan Beck, because they got to hear they got you to hear the truth. And sometimes these people need,
they need
they need to hear it. Look, you're speaking from a fan who's been a season ticket holder since the inception of San Francisco Giants, your family. And you know what? You have more right than anybody. Maybe any fan, because
I've already been escorted out already once, so I'm not worried.
Yeah. How many season ticket holders can say that they've had season tickets since '58?
So when my grandfather, when Stoneham came out, remember the Dodgers didn't want to come out by themselves, and I'll be quick. So the Dodgers convinced Stoneham to bring the Giants out, because if you guys realize the way it was back in New York, all three stadiums you could see, Ebbets Field, Polo Grounds, and Yankee Stadium. It's sort of there's photos out there where that's how close they were. So that's how big of a rivalry was. So when they came out and they played out here, we didn't have Candlestick. We had Seal Stadium. So the way you had tickets is there were 12 sets of tickets. Our family had 2. But my same thing is my grandfather, when he came out here at Seal Stadium, you got an opportunity to be a shareholder of the Giants. And all that meant was like a seat license. If you had 2 tickets, you had a share. And my grandfather got 2 tickets for Seal Stadium. When he hit those 2 tickets, Seal Stadium, they were there, I think, for 4 years while they were making Candlestick. And if you guys ever want to see anything, see how early Candlestick was. There was no left field or right field. It was just a fence. And we got, my grandfather at the time always got tickets on the third base, because at Candlestick, that was a visiting team. Why see the same team all the time when you can get you can see new faces every 3 days. And that's why we're on third. So we were always used to third. We had 4 tickets. In high school, we had 7. Then we went back to 4. And then what really is sort of a strange story is they tried to move us front row on the dugout, not front row where we are now. And I have a buddy that was sort of had original diagram of the seating diagram. And I told my dad, I go, Dad, they're screwing us. We're not getting the same seats. And if you look, they actually created a row in front of us because, we're in row CC, which didn't exist in the original plans. Like, why would you create a row CC? So it goes CC, AA, and then row A at Candlestick. I mean, at what is it now? Oracle Park. So they made an extra row, and because we were so pissed. And when the Giants first came out, you had to have a seat license, so we had to pay $7,500 for each ticket for lifetime rights. And then, of course, you had to pay for the price of the tickets. So originally, it was $30,000 investment at Oracle, well, Pac Bell at the time. Mm-hmm. And now, those seat licenses are worth a little money because of where they're at.
Check your email and just answer me on not your email, your text. Answer me there on the text. I'm looking here for one thing before we head out here. Hold on here. Here we go. Post-playing career. Okay. Chris Young, I'm seeing in the context. Chris Young was a player. He's now in management. Yes, Chris Young didn't step into the role immediately. He had a couple of years of training underneath him. He didn't just become the president of baseball ops for the Texas Rangers as from player to retired player.
Exactly. Uh-huh.
So no one's saying that Buster can't do this job. We're just saying there's no experience there. So,
and he's going to get the experience in the next 2 to 3 years. So I just have some patience. I think year 4 or year 3, year 4, that's when we'll really start to see if Posey is good at his job.
And that's also when we're going to get all the money, where we'll be the most, the franchise we might be worth, who knows what they're, we'll be more profitable than the Yankees. That's sort of the prediction.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, guys, I want to thank you for being here. And again, support our sponsors here. We're sponsored by Chapman Law Group. Chapman Law Group is a full-service civil litigation practice based out of Marin County. They represent clients throughout California in federal and state courts in matters of real estate, trust litigation, business, and environmental law. Their number is scrolling at the bottom there. They also do bankruptcy, personal injury, and general litigation. Give Chapman Law Group a call if you need help in any of those areas. We want to thank them as a sponsor. Also, we want to thank Yogurtshack in Danville and Lafayette. Yogurtshack has those 2 locations right there, downtown Danville on Harts Avenue, and in Lafayette. Lafayette, they're right off the 24, not too, right downtown Lafayette. Really a great location. And take your kids to Yogurtshack. They will love it. You'll love it too. At Yogurtshack, you get to grab the cup. You can grab one of 2 or 3 different sizes. Fill up your yogurt, many from 6 or 7 choices, and then head over to the stand with about, I don't know how many toppings there are. I'll have to ask Yogurtshack how many they got, but there's everything you can think of. They got it. And you pay by the ounce. But guys,
and remember, Dan, if you remember what you get.
Yep. If you're a member, become a member of Yogurtshack.
No, if you're a member of
a member of member of NorCal Sports Network. Join our membership, and we'll have to help get this out to our current members because they've already subscribed to that. We're going to give you $10 of coupons, and you can go in there and try Yogurt Shack out. And they just want to show their appreciation. And make sure you mention Dan sent you or NorCal Sports when you go into Yogurt Shack. Same thing when you call Chapman Law Group. Make sure you let them know NorCal Sports Network is where you're coming from. So we want to thank you guys. We'll be back tomorrow night. We're putting together a show. We're still working on it. Maybe a little Warrior season preview tomorrow night. So I'm working on putting a guest list together. No baseball games tomorrow. Saturday, it starts. All 4 games.
Oh,
going to be fun.
Can I say one reminder?
Yeah.
For the chat, if you, I know Dan's going to be up, but a thing that I told Dan, ESPN is going to be at the Cal Miami game
day
this Saturday, and they are going to be there party at 6:00 in the morning. ESPN, they're what do they call it?
I can't say who it is. I know who's going to be a special surprise there.
But the pregame festivity, game day is going to be there. ESPN for the first time ever is going to be at Cal.
You're going to want to watch that.
Yeah. So if you guys are up early on Saturday with the family, put on ESPN. They're going to be showing off Cal Berkeley, and then of course the big game.
Yeah, you guys are going to.
Miami goes to Memorial Stadium. Place should be rocking, and
it's going to be fun. Going to be fun. Cal, Miami, and Cal, Miami. It's going to be fun. Watch game day. You know how they always have somebody make a prediction, right? Don't they have a game day?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody.
Yeah, they usually fly somebody in, not someone local.
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Is it somebody with the resemblance of a last name?
Me? No.
No, they fly him in. Hopefully it's not Mr. Skittles.
Yeah. Okay.
It would be someone either famous Miami, a famous former Cal player. I don't know who's his.
I think you.
In Europe, so it can't be him.
Well, let's just watch. I'll give you a little hint. And
it's not Mr. Skittle. Good.
Maybe not. Maybe Jordan Mason's Big Daddy. Okay, guys, we are out of here. We'll be back tomorrow night. Thanks for joining, and we appreciate you being here. Next round, you guys want to rattle off real quick?
Yeah.
You want to pick the 4 winners?
New York.
Say that again. I got to turn this down a little bit. Hold on. Say it again.
Cleveland, San Diego, New York, and Philadelphia.
Cleveland, San Diego, New York. New York Mets?
New York Yankees, and then Philadelphia.
Okay. Cleveland. Okay, she said Philadelphia, right. Lou, what do you got?
World Series, Padres in Cleveland. Padres.
But who's going to win you obviously got the Padres in Cleveland. Who's winning the other 2 series? That would be Yankees, Kansas City.
I think the Mets are going to beat Philly. There's just something about them. They got a vibe.
All right.
And then the other one would be Cleveland, and Detroit goes to Cleveland, so it's Cleveland.
Yeah.
And who plays the Yankees again?
Kansas City.
Yeah, I think KC and Denver are happy they're there. I think they'll be eliminated this round.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I've got my picks, kind of wild. I'm taking in the American League. I'm taking the Yankees, and I'm taking the Scoobles. I'm taking the Detroit Scoobles because I think he pitches game 2 and 5, and those are 2 wins. Who's going to win? The Tigers got to win 1 or 3. One of those games.
And you got to remember, they got to go back on the road again. It's tough.
Yeah, I don't know.
5 games instead of 3. 5-game series.
Yeah, not a big trip from Cleveland to Detroit though. So no big travel in any of these except Kansas City and Yankees. That's the biggest travel. So in the National League, I've got the Mets and I got the Padres, and I'll cover the next round after that. Mets, Padres, Tigers, and the Yankees. Thanks for being here, guys. We shall see you. Robert Brown says loves Yogurtshack. All right, there we go. All right, guys, have a wonderful night. Oh wait, one more comment before we get out of here. Robert says, Lew, do you remember the gifts the Giant season ticket holders used to
The
give?
last gift they gave was 3 years ago. If you paid early, you got a jersey. I got a jersey, tried to get Farhan, and they wouldn't do it.
That's hilarious.
Lew, you're unbelievable.
Lew, oh my God.
Last 2 years, nothing.
Lew, we gotta get you're incredible, man. You're a stand-up comedian. You don't even know it. You're sitting down, man.
Pathetic.
Love it, everybody. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Have a good one.